So that's the person I got like 3 years ago in Thailand, yeah.
Oh, no, I can't start. I love those.
Time is 6:30 p.m. I'd like to call to order this public hearing for Tuesday, June 9th. Please rise to the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight's public hearing is related to the proposed ordinance number 2527-02, chapter 339, school bus violation enforcement system. And number 2527-03, chapter 13, citation hearings. It's just a public hearing, so at this point, we will open up the floor for public participation. If you would like to speak at the public hearing, please step up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. You'll have 4 minutes to speak. If you are on Zoom, please use the raise hand function. We will alternate between in the room and over Zoom.
Did we do attendance?
Do we need attendance?
Oh, that's right, yeah. We need a roll call.
Councilor Pedrego?
Here.
Councilor Capella?
Here.
Councilor Zahas?
Here.
Councilor Gonzalez?
Here.
Councilor Nieves?
Here.
Councilor Fleur?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Rada? Here. Councilor Kiniakos?
Here.
Here. All right, we got a quorum. Everything I just said, still applies. And you're up.
You're speaking on the ordinance?
I'm sorry?
Are you speaking on
The
the school
school
bus
bus
ordinance?
Okay,
Oh,
so this is a public hearing for the school bus ordinance. The regular meeting starts at 7, then that's right. Yeah, stick around, yeah.
Thank you.
School bus ordinance?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good evening, everybody.
You gotta do it,
I used to pay money for
but it
that.
says it's locate.
There you go.
No,
There you go.
it's not.
Well, yeah, but whatever we did, it worked, whatever happened.
Yeah, no, yeah, why not?
Hi, Bill McCarthy, 206 Churchill Drive. The ordinance for the two ordinances for the school bus violations for passing while the lights are flashing and stuff like that, I totally support them. However, I do have some reservations about the state abdicating their responsibility on the judiciary. We did away with traffic courts and county governments back in the 60s. And now they want the towns to start picking up the responsibility of traffic courts for all practical purposes again. I don't know what the workload is going to be as far as people pleading not guilty and what the whole court system thing is going to look like. But I just see a little bit of a nightmare that the state is telling us to do something without giving us any resources to do it. I guess it's going to fall on an officer from the police department primarily. And I don't think that that's fair for the police department. And overall, I'm not sure. I don't know how many issues we have with school bus violations going on. I do see it all the time. I try to avoid the driving on the road during school bus time. But I guess that's it. I'm just concerned that what's the next step? When the red light cameras come up online for the town, is the state gonna say, oh, well, that's the responsibility of you guys too? You have to legislate or judiciate the responsibility of the red light violations. I would like to see a little bit of pushback. Well, I guess the ordinance is just, I support the ordinance, both ordinances. But the thing is, the bigger picture is, what does the state actually want us to do? I don't want to see government, I don't want to see county governments back again, and I don't want to see traffic court back again. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
The time is 7 p.m. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Mayor and Town Council for Tuesday, June 9th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please have a roll call, Susan.
Here. Counselor Capello,
Here.
Keisha Haas,
Here.
Gonzalez,
Here.
Counselor Nieves. Here. Counselor Flores,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Rada,
Here.
Counselor Tiniakos.
Here.
Mayor Tristan.
Here. All right, we have a quorum. Next is approval of the agenda. Unless anybody has any changes they need to make, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Deputy Mayor Rada, second by Counselor Floyd. Any discussion on approving the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, motion carries unanimously. The agenda is approved. Moving along, first up, we have presentations and proclamations, and we have a very important proclamation that we do every year right now for our Volunteer of the Year. I will read the proclamation. Proclamation of the Newington Town Council. Whereas Mr. Billy de Blasio has been an enthusiastic supporter of the Newington Parks and Recreation Department and has served as a valued member of the Parks and Recreation Board since 2005, contributing both leadership and hands-on service to countless programs and initiatives. And whereas his dedication is especially evident during the annual Life Be In It extravaganza, where he volunteers all 4 days, performing essential duties from ensuring refreshments are properly maintained during peak summer conditions to serving thousands of attendees, helping to make the event a continued success for the community. And whereas Mr. de Blasio has further contributed his time and energy to other major community events, including Motorcycle Madness, Newington Goes Country, Food Truck Friday, and the Night of Lights, always willing to lend a helping hand and foster a spirit of community engagement. And whereas, beyond his work with Parks and Recreation, Mr. de Blasio has served as a volunteer firefighter for 25 years, earning lifetime member status, and has dedicated decades to coaching youth baseball, basketball, and football, positively impacting the lives of countless young residents. And whereas, his compassion and leadership extend beyond the field, as demonstrated by his efforts to support families in times of need, including organizing meaningful tributes that honor and uplift members of the community. And whereas he has consistently demonstrated kindness and neighborly spirit by volunteering his time to mow neighbors' lawns and clear their driveways and sidewalks during winter storms, ensuring their safety and well-being. And whereas Mr. de Blasio embodies the very definition of public service, consistently placing the needs of his community before his own and serving as a role model for others to follow. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Newington hereby recognizes and honors Mr. Billy de Blasio as a 2025 Volunteer of the Year in appreciation for his extraordinary service, dedication, and lasting contributions to the community. Dated Newington, Connecticut, this 9th day of June, 2026.
Second.
All right, we had a motion and a second. Any discussion? Counselor Budrako.
Yes, Mr. de Blasio, first of all, congratulations on being named Volunteer of the Year. That's quite something in a town that's noted for volunteers. To be #1 is quite an honor. But the activities that you're involved in span such an array of areas. And it seems like your actions have touched so many residents in this town, from the youngest to the oldest, from your Parks and Rec activities to the Newington Volunteer Fire Department, coaching, and also what really I love is it sounds like you're a really good neighbor. And it's residents like you that donate your time to make our town a great place to live. So I just want to thank you for all you've done. And you seem like you're young enough that you'll be continue to be volunteering for many years to come. So thank you.
Counselor Floyd.
Thank you, Mayor, Mr. de Blasio. I feel like that's the only way I can address you, because I've known you for most of my adult and young life. This is so well deserved. And I know you're not doing it, you don't do the volunteer work or the service for any kind of recognition at all. But you give back to the community, your family gives back to the community in so many ways that are small, sometimes larger, sometimes more organized, But more than anything else, you have, and your family has this spirit of service, of being a good neighbor, and just aims to show up as a good neighbor and a person of service, regardless of the circumstance, regardless of the event or the need. And a lot of people could learn a lot from that. That kind of service is what keeps our communities together. And I'm so grateful for all the ways that you've shown up for this community and will continue to, and all the ways that you impact my young life and so many other young people's lives. And this is very well deserved. And please let us know if we can ever support you in the service that you do every day. Thank you.
So Counselor Tiniakis.
I wanted to just echo what my colleagues have said. This is a very long list of things that you're doing, and it's awesome. I'd love to see people like you out in our community. We could probably use a few more people like you out there. So just the time alone that you've given to this town probably outweighs all of our time collectively up here. So just thank you for doing what you're doing. Keep going.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion, Council? Mr. de Blasio, thank you for your years of service to the town of Newington. Based on what we've read in here, it seems like this is long overdue. Probably deserves something for a while. But you know, as has been stated, you know, people who volunteer the way you do don't do it for recognition. You do it because you love your community and you want to be there for it. And that's, you know, the most sincerest kind of, you know, sacrifice and service that we can do. So I look for role models in everywhere I look for different things in service. So, I mean, understand that you're a role model for all of us too, as we try to do service and volunteer in our community as well. So congratulations on the recognition. I expect you will continue to volunteer and help out and continue on. So, you know, congratulations and thank you for everything that you've done for our community. We're really, truly grateful. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. We'll open up the floor. If anyone would like to come up and speak, Mr. Blasio, please feel free to come on up right now. If you would like to come up too, definitely. Come on up, anybody. There you go, John.
Good evening, Don Woods, 82 Ivy Lane. I just found out about this the other day, but I have known Bill for many years. I just found out tonight it was 20 actually. He came on the Parks Board. I didn't really know Bill at all. And when he came on the board, actually, I think he was on the opposing side at that point in time. But we got to know each other, and Bill is the kind of guy that you've all said it. I can tell you many, many examples of why he is more than eligible for this award. Not only this year, multiple times through his career, that 20 years that I met him. I'm gonna tell you one little story. He had just got on the board and we had put in the skate park. There was a tragic accident and a young boy was fatally injured. His favorite thing at the skate park was this one particular ride, and he wanted it painted purple. Bill went out and obtained the paint, the purple paint, organized on his own time a group of kids that were his friends at the time to go there and paint the skateboard. And I believe today the particular is still painted purple. That's the reason why. He didn't have to do it. He volunteered to do it. He was a new member to the board. I enjoyed all the time I worked with him. He was dependable. He turned out to be a great friend. I wish him the best. He's a couple of years younger than me, so I don't know, maybe he's got some more life in him, we'll see. But definitely, thank you all for recognizing him. He is a great guy.
Thank you.
Keep the floor open. There he comes.
Sure he wants to go. Thank you. That was Don breathing. I'm sure.
Where's the? Right in front of you.
Right there.
You're good to go.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Like to say that I miss you all, but no. No, it's been fun. It's been a fun couple rides and the people that you have here, Scott Karras is doing a great job, in my opinion, of leading a great staff. So, in the back here, this Connecticut Recreation and Parks Association has recognized statewide Billy de Blasio as Volunteer of the Year some years ago, along with Don Woods, Eileen Francolino, and not Ed, but Diana and Carol Anist and Diana Sarah. So we have a long history at Parks and Recreation having great volunteers, and Billy de Blasio is super. I'll tell a story about Billy. When I first got here, he said, "Hey, I'm going to stick around for you." He goes, "We're going to make this place great." I go, "Okay, great, Billy." So, but someone passed away that was involved in Little League, and Billy did travel basketball, regular basketball, softball, Little League, everything. Billy did everything. I didn't realize how much time he could put to this, but he raised basically by himself enough money for a bench and a tree at Clem Lemire Field. And it was just an amazing thing. But when you see the special events going on and your beer is ice cold, that's Billy de Blasio running around like an idiot in 100-degree weather, trying to get ice in everybody's buckets so that the beer is cold and the wine is cold. He's just a super guy. And from what I just was found out yesterday, that he also is he's off the board now, and he's still volunteering for the Newington Ghost Country and Food Truck Friday this week. So it's just, you just can't say enough about this guy. And I would be remiss not to say what a lovely wife Lynn he has, as well as Nicole and son. But I think Nicole is the only one here, I believe. And Nicole's a superstar in the making. She worked for our preschool for years, and I just heard she just got a full-time job in Granby as a kindergarten teacher. So yeah, that's good news. I just want to thank you all very, very much for recognizing Billy de Blasio. If anybody deserves it, it's Billy de Blasio. So thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Good to see you.
Yes, thank you.
You want to come up and say something? Come on up. We'd love to hear from you, please.
All right.
First of all, I'd like to thank all of you guys for the honor. It's incredible, and I'm so proud to have gotten it and received it. I can't believe it's been 20 years since I first stepped into Park and Rec, and like Don said, it was a little because I was put on by the Republicans and I was registered Democrat. But I would like to make a shout out to my friend Jeff Wright, former mayor, because it was his vision that said, "Hey, you got to get involved and do something." So he was right. And also I'd like to acknowledge Don and Eileen for their support over the 20 years. They were my two mentors and ran everything by them before and after meetings, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. And Bill's amazing vision for this town and the residents and what he's done over his career is amazing to me. And that's why I did stick around, because I just fell in love with his ideas and where we were going. And I think they're going to survive for a long time. And I want to thank my wife and family for constantly supporting me for all these endeavors that I take on, and just really appreciate everything that you guys all do and all the volunteers. I'm just proud to be part of the distinguished group of people that, you know, go above and beyond. That's all. So thank you very much for this award.
Thank you. Always one of my favorite proclamations. It's always a great thing. So tough act to follow. Moving on though. This is a really, really cool presentation that we're really excited about. Tonight we're hearing about a girls' future firefighter camp, and we are joined tonight by the fire chief from Hamden, Miss Shelley L. Carter. Please, love to hear from you. It's exciting. My dad lives in Hamden, by the way, so thanks for protecting it. Thanks for being here.
Oh, well,
Hi.
I'd like to introduce Chief Shelley Carter from Hamden. We met at a command meeting, a command actually training weekend, and she approached me to see if Newington would be interested in hosting her camp. I told her I didn't think it'd be a problem. I'd have to run it by the chief, and obviously Chief Tremor was on board also. So Chief Carter's here tonight to give a presentation to you so you know what it's all about, and I'll turn the mic over to her, Chief.
Should I sing a song? No.
Please do.
Kidding. You really don't want me to. Good evening, and to the council here, thank you so much for having me here this evening. Of course, to Chief Trauma and Chief Pierre for, I hope you can hear me, for giving me this opportunity to bring Girls Future Firefighter Camp to the town of Newington. True story, I used to live right down the street, right over the line into West Hartford. So somewhat a bit of a Newington person, but you know, if I drove by every now and again. But I just wanted to let you all know what Girls Future Firefighter Camp is and what will be happening in your community, in your fire department in July. So a brief backstory, Girls Future Firefighter Camp came into existence when I was a Hartford firefighter, retired after 22 years of service in Hartford. And at about the 15-year mark, I had began to promote making history in the city of Hartford. And I was like, I looked back and I realized that I was able to retire in the next few years. I was like, oh my gosh, what footprint have I left in the world of this amazing career of the fire service? And so my husband and I decided to put together a firefighter camp to teach young ladies about careers in public safety, police, fire, EMS, and emergency management. So our very first camp, we had 9 little girls from Hartford. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was like, let's just teach them what I do. So my sons were the 6 people, and they had casts and sprains on their arms and legs, and we were teaching little girls about CPR and AED, and it went over so well that we did it again. And here we are 15 years later. 11 years later, because with time and trying to put things together, and multiple camps. At this point, we are a well-established organization, and we've seen multiple camps in a year. So what's going to happen in Newington? We have already started the process, I would say about 8 months ago, probably about the time that I saw the chief, and I said, hey, let's do this thing. And about 8 months ago, we started to have conversations. I came to visit the firehouse. I looked at the equipment because we host a camp in a firehouse. That gives the young ladies an opportunity to see actual fire equipment. This is not a frou-frou camp. Girls actually put on our gear. We make sure that they learn about hose advancement, extrication, how to pull people out of cars and cut up cars. We teach them how to throw ladders. We teach them how to perform CPR, AED, and they are certified when they leave. Every job that I've held in the fire service, these young ladies will go home knowing what it is about. So arson investigation, code enforcement, law enforcement, where I have to interact with fire investigations, arson investigations. So we invite the state police into the camp, and they show the girls how to collect evidence, how to find out if there were spills or an arson attempt. The girls will go to court because it is an arson, and they're gonna have to be able to speak to the judge and talk about what they did in the investigation. The girls will then talk to the press, because that's what we do as firefighters and as fire chiefs. They will stand in front of a camera. They will learn how to speak about what happened at the structure fire. They will then go through the emergency management process. So if we have a storm in our town, in the town of Newington, this is who you will reach out to. This is how you will handle it, so on and so forth. All of those things happen in a week. It's a lot of information. We bring folks in from all over the state of Connecticut. We also have women who come and teach from FDNY, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Massachusetts, and of course, the state of Connecticut. So this camp is chock full of information. The young ladies get to see every single component of emergency services, no matter what. And then we choose a fire chief, so because someone has to take my job, right? So every position in the fire department, every position in emergency management will be filled with these young women. And at the end of this camp, after we beat them up pretty good, because we make them run and do physical fitness and make sure they know about the CPAT, so they're able to pass the test when it's time, they graduate with a ceremony with friends and family. And they get to show them what they have learned over the entire week. I have to say that there's a young woman named Maya who is phenomenal firefighter here in Newington. She has taught in our program. She was a student of our program about 4 or 5 years ago. Now she teaches in our program, and she's phenomenal. She just got her Q restriction to drive fire apparatus. She is part of your town, and she helps run Girls Future Firefighter Camp. So with that being said, there's a lot of information. I hope you have an opportunity to come by. Please come and visit the camp. It's July 20th through the 24th. Graduation is the 24th in the afternoon. We feed the kids because they have to have firehouse meals, because that's what we do at the firehouse. We feed them wonderful food. I'm asking for donations from your community to help with some of that. But if not, the girls go home with gifts and trinkets and food and all kinds of fun stuff. Please come by and visit. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, we'll open it up for questions from
Do an
council.
adult program, because that's.
Yes. Councilor
I have to
Janko?
work on that one.
It sounds wonderful. How do young girls find out about the program? How many do you accept?
Sure. So far right now, we have 25 girls signed up, and we actually have a young lady flying in from Indiana for this
Wow.
program. She heard about it, and she's flying to Connecticut for this program. We've had that in the past as well. Young girls that come from, this is their family vacation week, and they come and they bring their young women to the program. The program's been around for 10 years, or 11 years. And so sometimes it's word of mouth. Sometimes it's someone sees me on the news, or someone hears about it through their high school. Emails were sent to the Newington High School to make sure that your Newington young people know about the program. But it's really usually just word of mouth. And I usually tell young women, I don't ask the girls if they want to come, because most of the time it's no. I ask parents and grandparents, let your daughters come and become empowered and strong and brave, so that they know that they can be anything they want to be if they put their minds to it.
And Chief, are you gonna have them in the training tower?
Yes.
It's gonna be a combination of some fire, that's our training classroom at headquarters, and then they'll transition over and do some stuff at the tower. So we've shown her both locations, and we have, she came, like she said, she came on a tour. The chief and I took her through the firehouse. She looked at our equipment. We had discussions, and we've been working with her back and forth to coordinate. We were able to get her flyer up on our message board that ran for a while. So it should be good exposure, not only for us, but for her camp.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Councilor Floyd?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Chief,
You're
so
welcome.
much. This
Thank
is
you.
just exceptional,
Thank
and I'm so thrilled that you've had such success with this program and that you're bringing it to our community. Thanks for thinking of
Thank you,
us.
absolutely.
I was going to follow up on some of the questions Councilor Traco asked, but can you talk a little bit about the selection process for the girls? Is there much of a selection process? Is it kind of first come, first serve?
For the most part, it's first come, first serve. The girls have to be 13 to 18. Every now and again, I will pull in a 12-year-old if mom or dad says that she's mature enough.
Okay.
And sometimes I'll pull in a 19-year-old, just because I want to make sure that she moves into the career that she's looking for, so.
And is it at any cost to the students at all? or
Not at all, it's
Not
free,
at all?
it's
Wow.
free.
Wow.
The
Wow.
entire
That's
program has been paid for by myself and my husband. I was on Good Morning America like a few years back and they gave me some money for the program, but we do seek donations and grants and all those things, and I can't really talk about money because I have this uniform on. But I will say that Girls Future Firefighter Camp is paid for with myself and my husband's wallet,
Wow.
more his wallet than
Wow.
mine.
Good, it's going to a good cause.
Yes,
and we're
thank you.
just so thrilled. Again, truly, thank you for doing this, and please let us know how we can continue to support you in this exceptional program. And thank you, Chief LaPierre, for your work as well.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Gonzalez.
It sounds absolutely amazing, and I just want to thank you for sharing what you know onto other young women. I think it's incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you to our fire department for hosting.
Yes.
Counselor. Deputy Mayor Rada.
Yes, I just want to say that this is an exceptional opportunity. Thank you so much for having the brainstorm and pulling it all together. It's certainly much needed, and if, as we've said, if there's anything we can do to help support this, we're absolutely here. Thank you, Chief LaPierre, Chief Traumer, got Commissioner in the back as well. I had heard a little bit about this, but now hearing the full scope of what you do, it's just extraordinary. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We look forward to maybe taking a peek every now and then,
Please.
seeing what's going on.
Absolutely.
Thank you for everything you
Welcome.
do.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Counselor Capella.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming here and letting us know about this. Congratulations to you, and this is amazing. Give these girls an opportunity that they probably would have never had. And just to find out that you are the one that puts it all together, it's just very nice of you. And I'm glad Newington firefighters, you guys are gonna have this here. It's awesome. I had a quick question.
Sure.
How many times can the girls attend this camp? Can they repeat year after year if they're really interested?
So what we do with the camp is they absolutely can come back as often as they'd like. By this third camp, if they come back, they become junior instructors,
Okay.
depending on their age as well, right? So they become junior instructors, and so they have to teach the girls their ropes and knot skills. I hold them responsible for looking over the young women, the newer kids from the camp, and they absolutely love it.
Love
They're
it.
like, this
Yeah.
is, we get to teach now. So yeah, yes,
Awesome.
yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Nieves.
Thank you for your presentation. I just really want to commend you for empowering young girls, becoming young women. But do you have contact information, maybe an email address, that if anyone on the council or in our town would like to maybe get engaged or involved? I'm sure our firefighters maybe would put something up, but do you have information for
Absolutely.
yourself? And many of the questions that I had have already been answered. Your training is 5 days, correct? The scope or the age limit is, the age range 13 to 18. But I was also curious, how many of the young women that have gone through your program, you said you've been in existence for 11 years and you had the training camp. How many of them have, out of curiosity, become female firefighters?
Thank you for asking that question. So you have to think about this, like the first 5 years, the kids were like 13 years old, right? So they are just now becoming, really adult women. With that being said, we've had approximately 7 young women become firefighters, EMTs, or paramedics, 1 police officer. And we've also had a dispatcher, because we also bring dispatch in as well, and we teach them how to, the onset of the call. So a woman has become a dispatcher. And now we also have young women in college in University of New Haven. They have a fire science program. So we've sent multiple girls to the fire science program. And those young ladies, a few of them are coming back to teach the program and talk to other girls about getting into a fire science program.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I have to admit, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming here and sharing this
Thank
with
you,
us tonight, Chief, and thanks for bringing this to our town. This is a phenomenal thing that you're doing, and I think it's so great. I'm really proud that we're partnering with you on this. So just thank you so much for coming tonight, and thanks for bringing your camp to town. I will definitely come by and check it out.
So I would like to say girlsfuturefirefightercamp.com if you want to take a look at the website. It's a little older, but same information. girlsfuturefirefightercamp.com, as well as reach out to the Newington Fire Department if you have any questions. Your firefighters are phenomenal. I have to say they've been so welcoming. And whatever you need, mindset, knowing that we're gonna, one, keep the girls safe. We're gonna have lots and lots of fun. And your firefighters are gonna be able to interact with these young people and help mentor them into this process. So thank you to the fire department, of course, and to you, Mayor, and the council. Appreciate your time.
Thank you
Thank you so much.
It's really awesome. All righty, moving right along. Next on our agenda is public participation. If you'd like to speak in public participation, please step up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. If you're on Zoom, use the raise hand function. And we will alternate between in the room and over Zoom. Come on up.
All you.
Hello. I'm Elena Starr. I'm a Newington homeowner and I live at 44 Windmill Lane. Good evening, Mayor and members of the Town Council. I would like to discuss the proposed Town Center Planning Initiative and the state grant funding being provided to support a small portion of it. While I appreciate, can you all hear me? Okay. While I appreciate any opportunity to improve our community, I have concerns about the direction being encouraged by our state. From what I understand, we are receiving approximately $200,000 in grant funding to begin planning for redevelopment in the town center area, including Market Square. The vision being promoted appears to focus heavily on higher density housing, apartments, and additional residential development. My concern is simple. Growth is not free. Every new apartment, townhouse, or housing unit brings additional demands on town services. More residents equals more traffic on our roads, greater strains on our water resources and on our electrical grid, greater demand for police, fire, and EMS services, increased use of our schools, and higher long-term operating costs for taxpayers. I spent the last 5 or 6 town council meetings speaking about and trying to see how we as a team could stem the tide of the already scary and untenable property taxes that are coming our way in our July 1st tax bills. With all due respect, the mayor and the town council need to carefully evaluate the long-term financial impact of all of this housing redevelopment upon our community. Newington homeowners already bear the brunt of 72.8% of town taxes, and the costs are only rising. We need to be cautious about pursuing development that may look attractive on paper, but that ultimately increases costs for taxpayers, and that ultimately places burdensome strains on town services. Additionally, as food for thought, we moved into the town of Newington with a general population of 31,000 residents. We could have moved to a city. At the rate of the people who will be populating all of these housing developments, will Newington soon become a city? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Elena.
We have a few on Zoom, so we're gonna alternate and go to one on Zoom and then we'll come back to the room. Ms. Lyons, go right ahead.
Hi, Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. I, like the previous speaker, am interested in what the money is going to be spent on from the grant or that we received from the state. I think I read that it was $2 million, and I think I asked that whenever it comes and whatever they decide to do with it, that it's discussed at the table, so I won't go any further with that. But there are two other projects that have not been completed yet, and they are not state grants, but I'm just curious if at some future town council meeting we can have an update on the Stoddard and Hartford Avenue streetscapes, I think they're called, and the New Britain Avenue and Maple Hill. I was at a town council meeting, I think on October 28th, that the New Britain Avenue and Maple Hill project was discussed, and I haven't heard much more about that. At the second public participation on the last meeting, I think I asked about the radio tower too, or the activity that was happening up on the mountain on the property referred to as the Marcap property. And like I say, just interested in that and the status of the animal shelter, whether or not anything's being looked at other than leasing space or renting, whatever we do in Bloomfield. I was delighted to see that the chief from Hamden is bringing in her Girls Future Firefighters program. I was going to ask if Stella Kidd from Chicago Fire stole her idea for her Girls on Fire program. That being said, it's just joking around, but in all seriousness, I think it's wonderful that young girls are given the opportunity. I know we have a few girls in the cadet program here in Newington, but it's nice to see that the Newington Fire Department, in collaboration with Fire Chief from Hamden, actually, she's going to be doing the program, her and her husband. I think it's a wonderful program, and I hope that they come back again sometime. But and maybe they can come back and give us some feedback as to how the camp went here in town. Okay, that's about it for now. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Rose. Anybody else in the room? Come on up. We'll go back to one more on Zoom. We'll go to next.
Andre Andreas, 76 Vincent Drive. I appreciate the council's efforts to represent and respect all members of our community. My question is, if the town allows flag representations, if the town allows flags representing certain identities or groups, would a similar request from other groups be considered under the same criteria? Or in other words, let's just be fair. Understanding you cannot answer my questions in real time, I am presenting a verbal and formal request that the town of Newington fly the straight pride flag to be flown for the remainder month of June and subsequently for the entire month of June each year after. And I've included the straight pride flag here. I'll show you. Okay.
Cool.
All right. The straight pride flag represents heterosexual identity for the inclusion of straight people in the month of June. This council has stressed the importance of inclusion of the pride flag in the individuals that it represents. This council has also expressed many times that they want to ensure all members of our community feel welcomed. As a contributing member of our community, I ask the council to initiate a vote on flying the straight pride flag in honor of the Newington heterosexual community. In an effort to facilitate and expedite recognition of the heterosexual community, I have purchased the straight pride flag and I will donate that flag that I purchased to be flown over our town council approval. I appreciate the council's commitment to representing all members of our community.
Thank you, Andre. All right, we'll go back to Zoom. Go right ahead, Ms. Havens.
Dana Havens, 113 Stoddard Avenue. Hi, everyone. I'm calling because I'm confused and I'm concerned as to why the town pool committee meetings are being canceled and not continuing for the foreseeable future. AJ and I have had a bit of a discussion about this via Facebook, and obviously we don't agree. So I'm bringing it to everyone on the council. I think, no. I know that the committee has enough information and design options available via the Weston Sampson report to be able to discuss and design any of the designs or amenities revolving around both pools. In our discussions via Facebook, AJ stated that it'll cost about $30,000 per pool to go out for an RFP. And I think that he's confusing the RFP process with the referendum process, because everything that I looked up on RFPs, they're basically free, except for you have to post it in a local newspaper. So that's a couple $100. And, nobody says we have to go out to RFP anytime soon, but it's certainly not going to cost $30,000 to $60,000. Now, we know there were many false and dire quote unquote facts put out about the pool by the past PNR superintendent and by the PAC. But what was true in all of that is that our pools are nearing the absolute end of their lives. So it only makes sense to me that the committee continues to move forward with the planning and the replacement of the pools and all the other amenities that you want within the pool. Having a firm plan ready to go when it's time to go to RFP will only ensure that the estimates will come in more true to the actual cost and, hopefully won't have to dip into those contingency funds. Not to mention that if a pool, or God forbid both, should fail this year, the committee would have to scramble to come up with a plan the last minute in hopes of getting the pool up and running for the following season. So I really can't understand why they are not continuing, unless they want to say, oh, pool broke, we got no plans, let's just dust off the old plan that moves the pool over by Garfield. Or, let's just put the pool aside, let's not have meetings so people all forget about what we need to spend. And these other projects that we have coming up for referendum, they'll go ahead and vote yes because they forgot that, any day now we're going to need a new pool. So I'm encouraging that the town council direct the committee chairman to hold his monthly meetings and all the meetings going forward until they come up with a plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Thank you, Ms. Havens.
Hi, Jacob Knowlton, 10 Hillside Street. I came here today to speak on the flag. My politics usually don't include flag politics. I'm more of an infrastructure type of fella, but I thought it was important to speak on this today. First, I want to thank y'all for raising the flag. It's not much, but it's a small step in the right direction, and I think that's positive. I also want to preface this with an apology. I know y'all were accused of coming from a place of hate, and I don't think that's correct. I know y'all, and as someone who tries to attend these meetings pretty regularly, I know we're all coming from the same place, and that's a point of care and respect for this community. And I think that's important to recognize, so thank you. I was hoping to address a few comments that y'all made regardless though. And I tried my best to listen actively, but if I get these wrong, please feel free to correct me. The first was we want to welcome everyone in town. I think we all can agree on that. We all want to do that. It's just a matter of how we get it done. The second is this flag doesn't make you any more decent of a person. And then the last one was forced conversations in the households. So to the first point of we want to welcome everyone in town, we absolutely want to do that. This town has a lot of work to actually do that, and I hope to share my perspective on that later as I speak. But to put these in perspective, or to put this in perspective, welcoming everyone doesn't mean treating everyone equal. It means applying attention and care when it's necessary. So for example, like when one of your kids gets hurt, you don't say tough luck, I gotta treat all you the same. You wrap an ankle, you do what you gotta do, you apply the care and attention you need in order to send that kid off and be toe to toe with their siblings. But with that being said, we're all a single pair of eyes and ears, so sometimes it's hard to know what goes on in this town. So I wanted to give some perspective of what it's like to grow up gay in this town. And I'm only one perspective, but this is what it was like for me. I wasn't a theater kid, I was a sports kid. Some of that is against my will, but so be it. So I didn't really have that kind of click in school. So growing up in high school was hard. Kids were in my bedroom, or my peers were in my bedroom before I was even in my bedroom. And that was difficult. I didn't know what I liked. I was kind of just a kid going on with my day, but that didn't stop them from throwing slurs at me, calling me a fruit, throwing basketballs on my head. I was varsity captain of the soccer team, and my junior pulled my hair and spit on me and called me the F slur. So that's what it was like growing up here. And coming back from college, I hoped it had changed. But just this past fall, I was at my brother's food truck festival, and a kid shouted at me, "Oh, that's one of them F slurs." And I'm not mad at the kid. I'm just mad or frustrated that this town continues to be a place where that's okay to be set out in the open. You know, no one batted an eye. And that's the type of stuff that I'm talking about that we need to put in the work. So to your point of this flag doesn't make you any more of a decent person, I agree. The a-holes are still going to be an a-hole, not calling you one. You're a very kind person. But just saying that at the end of the day, it's not for them. It's not for you. It's for the kids that have those things said to them and are really having a rough day, walking home crying, thinking, do I even deserve to exist? And maybe, just maybe, they look up and they see that and know that they can call this place home as well. So that's what this is for. And I feel like it's not really hurting anyone. I know we have some like, what about me politics going on, but they don't go through that, you know? So that's what this is for. And to the last point of forced conversations, I can say that about a lot of things. You know, like my brother comes home and he's like, why do the kids keep saying that's gay when they don't like something? That's a hard conversation, you know? But if we can't be talking to kids about this without bringing in sex and all the little details into it, we got bigger problems than a flag, right? It's easy enough to say sometimes a boy has a crush on a boy and a girl has a crush on a girl. And if you are religious, I want to respect that too. And I would say seek counsel, because at the end of the day, I'm wrapping up, I know. At the end of the day, we're a community. We're here to ask questions and answer questions. I'm here to help. I'm learning. I'm part of this community. I'm still asking questions and learning every single day. And so I just want to make sure that we're staying that close-knit community. Stay curious, ask questions if you need to, seek counsel. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jacob.
On up.
My name is Lou Voigt, still over on Hartford Avenue. I wasn't even gonna touch the flag issue again because I was waiting to hear about some flag policy talk. Because we had brought that up, I thought, at the last council meeting. But the way I hear this last guy talk, I didn't know the hate was rampant in this town. Yeah, what's going on? I mean, I just live life. I wanted to talk about the pools because Dana started my emotions going on Facebook that we're not having any pool meetings. I think if we restart them, I think we should restart these meetings with a spending cap that's agreed on, whoever has to agree on it. Because without a spending cap, it gets thrown, it becomes another fiasco, like we had with the Taj Mahal $20 million pool proposal. You know, I really don't think we got to pick up a pool, move it across Mill Pond and replant it in the corner of the thing for all that money. I think that's just a waste of money, and it's a pipe dream. The pool is fine where the hell it is. It's my opinion only. We don't need the extra cost of moving it. And I was at that Army band concert, and I was thinking about the extravaganza coming up. I don't know if I'll be there because I'm having open heart surgery on Friday. They found a widowmaker in my heart, so I got to go in for surgery. I hope to make it through and be at this thing, but I was thinking about the extravaganza, and if we picked up the pool and moved away over there, that takes up a lot of residents' space, because I've been going that thing for over 20 years, and it keeps getting bigger. Blankets keep getting bigger. And the rides got to go someplace. And I don't think anybody wants to put rides near the water, because now we're going to open up that space near the water. And I don't see any use in that. I really don't. It's going to litter the pond more so than it is now. I took a walk the last time I was able to walk around the pond, and I'm just really surprised at the amount of litter that's coming up on the banks of this town's most precious commodity, Mill Pond. You know, I'm tired of the dog poop issue. You know, we got some lazy residents that walk their dogs and don't pick up their shit, but that's just a resident thing. And one last thing, I kind of laughed at that proposal to turn our downtown into more apartments, an indoor, outdoor theater. And I really hope this shiny new thing doesn't get passed to come to our town, because all I can think of as I sit in traffic on Main Street is how much more traffic I'm going to sit in. And I think about the houses that go up for sale on Main Street and Willard and Cedar. Are people in town buying these houses knowing the traffic problem? Or are these all out of town people coming in and buying these houses for sale, not knowing the nightmare they're going to face every day getting out of their driveways? This is the things I think about in traffic. I'm sure we've all sat in traffic in this town, and I'm probably not the only one thinking this, whether you want to admit it or not. But I think that proposal was grandiose. It looks cute on paper. Oh boy, it's like having a pearl necklace all of a sudden. But it's going to cost us in the long run. Fire, law enforcement, every other infrastructure thing that we don't improve on in this town. And if that woman's firefighter thing does the same thing that the Citizens Police Force did for my son, who became a cop now, I think it's a great idea. That'll be it. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
Good evening, everyone. Bill McCarthy, 206 Churchill Drive. I had said one time that I should write all this stuff down that I want to talk about, but I never do. I did try it one time. It didn't work. I guess what I really want to do, there's like a whole litany of junk that we should talk about, and that's good. But I want to give a shout out to Parks and Recreation for the community gardens down on Deming Farm. They did a phenomenal job of plowing, tilling, whatever you want to call it, the gardens this year. And everybody, it looks like they had a pretty good turnout as far as leasing or renting out the spots. My annual concern about the barn on the farm is nobody's responsibility. Parks and Recs is nice enough to keep the exterior of the building maintained as far as clearing the grass and shrubs and stuff like that, which is very nice. They hadn't done that for a little while. But the building itself, the Deming Farm Association or committee, whatever they are, they want no responsibility for it at all. Parks and Rec doesn't really want to have anything to do with it. And it's sort of like, well, it's just another albatross that's floating around that nobody really knows what to do with. I think the building itself is a nice structure. I've heard people say, well, let's tear it down and build something else.
I think that we should maintain the structure and make it look presentable. Maybe just some more different shingles on it or a coat of paint or something like that. We don't want it to deteriorate to the point of needing to be destroyed or replaced. See, this is where the list would help out. A story just came out tonight about the Hartford Hospital property. I don't know if somebody's speculating that it's going to be sold. I think that's a pipe dream. That it should be set. That's good. That's a developer issue. The people keep confusing the Market Square issue with the Keeney property issue. I think the $2 million that's coming to us for the downtown revitalization has to be, I don't know if the money has already been accepted, the grant has been accepted, but we need to figure out what we actually want to do with that money. I've heard of signage and maybe doing something with the parking lot at the in Market Square itself. But that's it. And the pools. Dana and AJ are having a good discussion on Facebook about the pools. I got sucked into it, of course. And I just want to say that the pool at Churchill, which is the one that's right across the street from my house, is looking very nice. They did a good job repairing it or fixing up whatever they had to do. And the kids were in the park. It was today. There was a whole school bus, a couple of school buses full of kids. Nice to hear them screaming again. So that's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate you. Thank you, Bill. Anyone else in the room or over Zoom that would like to speak in public participation? Going once, going twice. All right. And you'll move along. We didn't get any emails, correspondence, correct? All right. Move on to remarks by councilors on public participation. I'm gonna kick us off. There's a couple of things I just want to address. First and foremost, the state money that we received for town center, some of the work. So that's gonna be guided by the town center master plan that was approved last year. That plan was put together by an entire steering committee of different folks around town, including public involvement, business owners in the town center and around the area and various other folks. And that group's going to be convening again to discuss the recommendations that came out of that town center master plan and how these funds could be used for some of those recommendations. This was not for housing or anything like that. This is for various little fixes to our town center to make it more attractive. The pools keep coming up, which is interesting, because we just came out of a really, really intense budget situation where we really had to be really tight about the money that we spent this year. So it's kind of funny to me to hear people calling for pools after they didn't want to spend money on pools, which, by the way, was shot down in referendum. An RFP process may be free, but what you get from the RFP is not. So yeah, we don't have the money to spend on design and architecture and all those different things at this point in time for the pool, which I understand is disappointing for some people, but we have to make cuts where we had to make cuts in order to keep taxes as low as we possibly could, which we understand is a priority for our town residents. Yeah, that's all I had to say on those items. Let's open up for council. Council Floyd.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll add on just those two things first. So the pool, I mean, the cut that we made in the budget to that item was a cut we made unanimously on a bipartisan basis. Again, because we were going through a difficult budget. Folks are bracing for torrential downpour on July 1st. And we can't be spending money just because we want to spend money. So I am a little confused that it's coming up because as a taxpayer, I'm glad that we made that cut. A couple other things I want to add on the $2 million, like the mayor said. I'm a little confused by some suggestion by you, Ms. Starr, that there's a vision being promoted for use of those funds. Like the mayor said, those funds are going to be used in accordance with the town center master plan that was community led. And like the mayor said, that steering committee that helped guide the process for crafting that master plan is going to come back together and make different recommendations to the various agencies that are responsible for then expending those funds. So, again, that was a community-led process, and there's no vision being pressed to use those funds beyond what is in that community-led document that we all have access to all the time. I'd also encourage folks, there was reference, Mr. Voigt and Ms. Starr as well, you both referenced this project at the Keeney Building. And I encourage folks to go to TPZ and share their thoughts on that project, because that's obviously ultimately in their purview, whether to approve or deny a project like that if they come to them with a formal application. But the developer, it's my understanding, came to TPZ hoping for that kind of feedback, not just from the commission, but from the community. So I think they would really welcome folks' feedback on that project to say, hey, this isn't quite what I think we need, or hey, this is exactly what I think we need. I think those comments are really, really important to raise right now. So I appreciate you raising them here. We'll certainly pass them along, but I encourage folks to go to the TPZ and share that as well.
When are those meetings?
They're posted
Tomorrow,
online.
there's
I see town council meetings being publicized, but where's?
online, you can see, I won't go back and forth, but just on this, I'll just say TPZ meetings are posted online. We can connect. I'll make sure that you have the resources. A couple other things. I don't want to belabor this, but the concerns around development, right? I also have concerns around the density in town, around the lack of affordable housing in town. We have a lot of housing that's way out of my income bracket. I don't know who's affording it, but it's very, very expensive. And a lot of that was driven by millions of dollars in tax abatements given to wealthy developers who live out of state, operate out of state, for their luxury developments to change the character of our community basically overnight, slammed through. I have said here, and I will keep saying till I'm blue in the face, because it is the damn truth that was a travesty for our community. And the millions of dollars that we foregone in order to push those projects through, we will never recover. And I'm very, very worried about that. And so I completely share the outrage. A couple other things that were mentioned. Ms. Lyons, you mentioned about the radio tower. I was going to save this for Councilor Liaison reports, but I'll just share. Councilor Bedrejko and I are both members of a working group of folks together with staff and the consultant that the town has brought on to kind of steer that process to review different locations for that radio tower across town. We just met today. We've been meeting every week. So we're going to continue to be a part of those discussions and continue to identify spots that not just keep in mind the public safety needs, but the open space needs, the green space needs, the public recreation needs. They need to preserve and conserve our trees, old growth trees, et cetera. So that's fully something we're involved in and something we care a lot about. So that process is moving forward in a positive direction. I'm going to ask Jonathan later for some updates on a couple things that were shared as well. I'm going to have a lot to say about the flag. I'm going to save that till the end. I want to also say, Bill, you mentioned about the community garden at Deming Young Farm. Where is Bill? And I completely agree. I was there just a few days ago and I thought it was so busy and folks were so involved, and the parking lot was packed, chock full of people. So I think that's really, really exceptional. I also want to commend Parks and Rec for their great work every year, rolling out that great program. One of the things I will ask now, and Jonathan can answer at a later point, I'm sure, but I know that we have kicked around responsibility for the barn for some time, whether it's Parks and Rec or the Deming Young Farm Foundation. It's not always been very clear. I know we worked to try to get some money at some point in the past to support preserving the barn, but we came up against this issue. So I just agree. I think it's something we should focus on to preserve that barn, which I think is worth preserving. So that's all I'll say.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Diniakis.
Yeah, obviously I'm going to talk about the pool. So if you've watched any of the committee meetings that have happened so far, we have nothing to do with like the past referendum proposal that was done a couple years ago, right? So that whole moving the pool and in the degree of change that it brought is not a thing. We're not doing that. That we've acknowledged that. We're not even going to acknowledge it was a thing. So we have, as a committee, though, agreed that we are going to use the same shell where the pools are, so they're not moving anywhere. We've agreed on the type of updated type of shell that we're going to do for like the future pools. Fingers crossed, right? And then now we're at the point where our last meeting, we went through the draft RP that our town manager had went through. There's some very small, minute changes that the committee has to vote on. That's going to take, maybe 10 minutes total. And then we're at the point where we need to be able to send these out now. Jonathan, I don't know if you want to kind of maybe explain this now or later on in the meeting. Maybe I'm not explaining it correctly to people about the associated costs that come with going out to RFP. But yeah, again, it's something that we took out of the budget because the budget was tight and it wasn't seen as something that like was going to be something that we could take action on immediately. So yeah, if you could maybe explain that at some point, that'd be great. 'Cause
Yeah,
I don't think doing it the
I'll
right
just
way.
mention it now. So we get price quotes from the Weston and Sampson, which was the vendor that we used for that sort of conceptual study to basically get a conceptual design that could, and cost estimates that would be the basis for a referendum. And it was between $60,000 and $75,000 per pool to get it to that, 30%, design stage that you could actually present it to voters. And yeah, so that would be somewhere between $120,000 and $150,000. And as the mayor already talked about, those kind of decisions that were made as part of the budget. So I'll leave it at that.
So not to say that it's like completely dead in the water, like I'm going to bother you and try to see if we could find the money at some point throughout the next fiscal year. But as it stands right now, I don't think it's necessary to host a whole meeting for 10 minutes to vote on something and then we can't take action on it for an undisclosed period of time. So it's really the core of why we haven't been meeting for the last couple of months.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you. Counselor DeHaas?
Thank you, Jacob, for coming up here and sharing respectfully the story and your personal experience for things. I will say it goes back to my larger, we need to share kindness and teach kindness. And that is a general overarching item that I think can be worked on but it's done at a household level as well. So I do want to say thank you for coming up and being respectful and having a good conversation about things. I appreciate that a lot. I don't think I had anything else at the moment. I'm good with that.
Counselor Jacob?
Yeah, a few things. First of all, during the public hearing, Mr. McCarthy asked about staffing. So I'm assuming when we talk about the proposal for the school bus, you'll explain the impact on staffing and also how it could roll into the red light speed camera thing. Secondly, I understand where Ms. Starr and Mr. Voigt are coming from. Simply because of it's hard when looking at Newington Center. At first there was that whole vision, then it was, okay, the Keeney part, then it's this $2 million grant, then it's the Hartford Hospital property. But yet most of it was presented, quite frankly, in terms of there's going to be housing, there's going to be increased housing somewhere in the center. So I can understand where they're tying this, what's going to be done with this $2 million in terms of the overall conversations that have been going on regarding those three properties. So I think it is a valid concern, and quite frankly, it can't be discussed at TPZ because it is an agenda item and the public can't discuss. It was an agenda item.
It's not on the agenda.
It was when it was discussed and presented.
It's not on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda for this Wednesday, but when it was discussed, people could not come forward with their concerns. Quite frankly, I think the town council is a better place to voice your concerns. It gets a bigger audience and it gets discussions going. So I encourage you both to continue because quite frankly, traffic, I don't want to get into the whole thing, but I do think traffic is an issue that keeps coming, like being not pushed aside, but I don't think enough attention is being paid to the current traffic issues, let alone what may or may not come from whatever development occurs on those 3 sites. And those 3 sites, in my opinion, need to be looked at holistically and not just as pieces. So I appreciate your comments. And regarding the pool, I understand also, I guess, where Ms. Havens and people are getting confused, because quite frankly, I'm confused. This is the first time, maybe I haven't been following it enough for the past couple of months or whatever, but I did not realize that the location was definitely determined. I did not realize that the amenities have been definitely decided upon or not. I think there is still this or the scope. I think people are still not in shock, but still thinking of the Taj Mahal or whatever as people are calling it. I did not see a definite statement of lessons learned from the referendum, that we are separated from the referendum. This is the first I have heard that it's going to stay in the same location. That, I think, is what Ms. Havens and others are wanting to see. Let's have them meet. You don't need necessarily them, because they didn't realize, or we didn't realize, the plans are set. People want to see what the plans are and then, go out for, because the way it was presented in the budget was another study. And people were tired of studies. I don't think it was explained enough what the studies were going to be. In my opinion, I was thinking, oh, another freaking study after like 4 or 5 have been done. But if you're saying that you've learned from the studies, you learned from the pushback from the referendum, you've learned from what the residents do or want, I think many people would like to see, okay, when and if we do go forward with a pool, this is where it's going to be, this is what it's going to look like, and this is either the 1 or 2 locations. I think those pieces are missing, and I think that just a wrap-up meeting or 2 wrap-up meeting to outline that more clearly would help a lot of people.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Nieves.
Yes, I just wanted to comment on kind of ditto Matt Floyd's Majority Leader Matt Floyd's comments, specifically on housing. And there's been an awful lot of talk, and I know concern expressed about the number of apartment buildings that have gone up or going up in town. And there's a lot of talk about affordable housing and where people can find affordable housing. And I'm one of the individuals that's being impacted by where some of this housing is being located and being built. It's right down, I'm right up the street from it. 225 apartments. I think my concern, though, as a new member to the council here, were and are from my conversations and the meetings that we've had as council people and looking at the budget, the number of abatements that were provided to big developers, which is lost revenue for the town. That was something that I was surprised to see. Not having been on the council previously, and I was one of the individuals that did oppose the buildings going up. But that's the process, and I am concerned about an awful lot of what is expressed here by our town people. But housing is a big issue. I've heard the issue about the town center. It's people have got to come out. You have got to look up where these meetings are occurring, when, what day, and listen and give your input, give your responses, voice your concerns. There's a lot of concern that I've heard here this evening, from housing to the impact of new apartment buildings coming up in our town, the impact it's going to have on our schools, our roadways, our waters, our sewers. People have got to come out and express their concerns when there are specific committee meetings being had regarding these specific issues. That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Tiniakis, you got another one?
Yeah, just to give you context, right, about the pool committee there. So the committee itself is at extremely early stages. about even being remotely close to a plan of any kind for either pool. So, we have the location and then we have the shell. That's pretty much it as far as solid determinations made by the committee. I guess we haven't made any kind of big announcement or we haven't broadcasted this simply because, and I say this because I think this is the right thing to do. We're trying to go slow with this. A lot of the feedback that a lot of people gave with the last proposal that was made, it was rushed. There was not enough time. It was just slapped together. And so we're going for the exact opposite of that. So I don't see the value in making these massive announcements and saying, oh yeah, the pool committee's going, we're on a roll. And when in reality, we're not. We're very early stages. We've only met, I think, maybe 4 or 5 times, maybe if that. So yeah, I guess it would make sense that not a lot of people would understand what's going on in the pool. If you watch the meetings, then you would have that context. But I mean, I understand people have their lives to live. They don't have time to watch hour-long meetings here and there. But yeah, and I wanted to specifically not kind of boast about what we're doing too broadly, just because of this exact scenario that we're in right now, where we've hit a roadblock. We're not too sure when we're able to advance forward with these plans. So I want to get people all hyped up about what's going on, and then poof, nothing happens for X amount of months or days. So yeah. So I mean, goes out to everybody on the council and the public. If you do have questions, absolutely call me, text me, email me. Would gladly give you information, show you where the videos are, answer your questions and stuff like that. But yeah, it's not. It's like a little baby duck. It's not ready to hit the water yet. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Councilor Floyd.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be quick. I just want to say, first of all, AJ and other members of the committee, but I just want to give Councilor Tiniakis a lot of credit that he has been very transparent as chair of that committee with members of the public. He's been very clear about what the committee is doing and not doing. He's very responsive to folks online and in other settings. I guess what I'd say is what I heard from Councilor Draco is that there was maybe some lack of awareness of what somebody was voting on in the budget. And we certainly got the same information that everybody did about what that item was and wasn't, what that study was going to accomplish or not accomplish. And we made that decision on a bipartisan unanimous basis because we came to agreement over, as we can recall, many hours of discussion on that point. So again, I just want to commend, I completely understand there being some confusion, particularly if folks aren't following those meetings quite as closely. But I appreciate that Councilor Tiniakis has always been there to answer those questions, along with other members of the committee. And then I'll just say one last thing on the town center that certainly, again, I encourage folks always to come to council. And again, we can pass the message along, but the TPC is the one who's ultimately going to be able to make a determination and a decision if a proposal comes to them, whether it's for Keeney or the Hartford Healthcare property or for a range of other things. And so, again, we can pass those messages along, but it's their decision-making authority. And folks should certainly, like Councilor Nieves said, look out for those meetings and get out there and share their thoughts on them. I do want to correct, though somebody couldn't speak at that meeting with the pre-app on that particular item as is standard for the TPC's meetings, they can go to the meeting tomorrow. They can go to the meeting in 2 weeks from now. They can go to any other meeting for which that's not on it. That's right. That's right. And they can go to those meetings and share their thoughts on those proposals and any other proposals, so long as it's not on the agenda. And I know there's some concern about housing. I would just, again, we had a master plan that didn't come from us, came from members of the community, and members of the community, as part of a whole range of items, did express interest in housing. That was a bipartisan, in many ways nonpartisan group of people who for many months contributed to that process. Members of the community who had never been involved before, but were really worried about the direction of our town with all this density and all this crazy development, and decided that they were going to get involved. And I think it's important that we adhere to their recommendations. And I'm one member of that steering committee. I know Councilor Draco, you're another. There's going to be a lot of other members of that committee too. And the recommendations will come to, I think, need to adhere to the recommendations transmitted to us by the public. Because if not, I'm not sure what we spent all that time doing.
Counselor Borrego?
Yeah, I just want to say, I did know what I was voting on for the budget. What I'm saying is that we know that the pools are at some point going to have to be done. We can move slow, but I do believe that the momentum needs to be, even if it's baby steps versus whatever. I resent the fact that somebody's saying I didn't know what I was voting on in the budget. Number two, yes, it's good to go to TPZ, but I do quite frankly feel that we are represented, we are elected officials, not appointed, and we're elected to represent all members of the community. And I want to hear your concerns at this meeting. I don't feel that it should be shunted off to the TPZ necessarily, although I think you should still go to the TPZ and hear the presentations and speak your concerns, but I think in a broader perspective, yes, the town planning study and implementation, it did there were a lot of charrettes, there were a lot of input, but I've got to believe that maybe 50, 75 residents continually kept coming. We have 30,000 people in this town who didn't, so say 30,000 people did not participate. Are we going to say, well, it's their fault? No, but now that they heard what was put out, sometimes you got to throw something against the wall before people react. And people are saying, oh my God, that does mean more traffic, or that does mean this, it does mean that. I think this is a good forum, and I would continue encouraging people to come to this body as well to let us know what your concerns are on overall development in town.
Counselor Draco. I'll just add last point. I want to echo what Counselor Floyd said to Counselor Diakis. I appreciate the effort and the role you took on for this pool committee, because I think, and I appreciate your pace. I think unfortunately, and I'll say it plainly, the pool issue has become politicized, and it's become it's Facebook fodder. It's people pick up a side and people take another side, and what gets lost in it is what we actually need. So I appreciate you taking your time and letting that, and bringing everybody into the table, and I hope you continue. With that, we are gonna move on to old business. First up in old business is adoption of chapter 339 school bus violation ordinance and amendments to chapter 13 citation hearings. Counselor Floyd, would you please read the resolution so that we may discuss this finally?
Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby adopts ordinance 2527-02, add chapter 339 school bus violation enforcement systems, and ordinance 2527-03 to amend chapter 13 citation hearings, copies of which are attached to this resolution.
Second.
Counselor Floyd, second by Deputy Mayor Rada. Any discussion from council on this? Now the gag is lifted. You're free to speak. Counselor Borrego.
Yeah, I do have a question. I think I hit the button too soon. Regarding the appointment of citation hearing officers, could you just tell me, is it going to be current staff? Is it going to be added to their responsibilities? Are we going to be hiring people?
No, we certainly wouldn't be hiring somebody. Yeah, I would presume for this, we would just appoint somebody. I mean, we could do it, we could appoint somebody, for example, for Blight, there's appeals officers for Blight. It's currently, I believe it's, I'm spacing on who it is, but there's, but to put it in perspective, and this gets back to your comment that you had before during counselor feedback. According to Dr. Brummett, there are between 4 and 5 on average violations per week. So you're talking all total, just citations that it would be issued of probably 20 per month. And, according to the chief, that's just something Chief Perry, that's just something they can incorporate in their workload. Now, of that amount, a very small percentage would be appealed. So let's say, 5 or 10% would be appealed. So the amount of work that would need to go into an appeal would be pretty minimal too. So I think that's to be determined a little bit, who we would appoint as appeals officers, but I don't think the amount of workload there is anything that would cause shivers within staff. Now, but I'd also go back to something I said before, and I think at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago, which is that at least at the police level of issuing the citations, this is kind of a nice little trial run for expanding to a much, much larger scope when we go to the red light cameras. Because there you're gonna have potentially hundreds or hundreds, let's say, it's the hundreds. And not more than that, citations that are gonna be issued every month. So that is gonna require the chief to hire more people. That's gonna require us to put in a more robust appeals process. So I feel as this is sort of like just dip our toes in it so we can have an understanding of what will really happen once the red light cameras get implemented.
And the technology that's in the buses now is robust enough to where it only identifies violations. It's not. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
haven't had
I
any
can't speak
issues?
knowledgeably about the technology itself, but the technology was installed a while ago. And this process of the DMV at the state level issuing the citations has been in place, for a long period of time. So,
And they chose the vendor,
well, the DMV did.
Yeah.
I don't know how, I know that the technology that's installed in Newington buses is compatible with what we need to do.
Okay.
So I don't know, how the procurement process worked when they were originally installed. But suffice to say that that same data that was transmitted to DMV can be transmitted just as easily to the police department.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Floyd.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 questions I have. First is around the funding, because obviously now with us having this ordinance and the state change in state statute, we'll receive this funding directly. Can you speak to any limits there are on our use of that funding?
Yeah, I believe it's just general fund revenue, like any fine that we would get. And so, in round numbers, $250 per infraction times, let's say 20 per month, that's $5,000 per month. So, and that would start to cover the costs of, to the extent there's like limitations. The first thing we would do with that money would be cover the cost of, if we did have to bring on a part-time officer, it would cover those out.
Okay. And I guess as a part of that, then when do we anticipate, so we, assuming this ordinance is passed this evening, when do we anticipate starting to make sure we have, or having the infrastructure completely set in place where we're now seeing this new system in action?
Yeah, so the ordinance will take effect 15 days after adoption. So essentially, but as a practical matter on July 1st. And then what's nice about the summer, the next, 7 or 8 weeks after that is, there's very little bus activity. There's some summer programs. So maybe you have 1 violation here or there. So that gives us a little bit of time to just make sure that the communication is working. And then I think once you get to Labor Day, that's when you really start to see the big ramp up.
Awesome. Well, I absolutely support this. I like Mr. McCarthy said, I see all the time. I'm sure we all do. Frankly, I have a lot more than we should. Folks driving past the school buses or driving in an unsafe way around school buses. And I totally support this. I'm very excited that we'll have this on the books and be able to enforce action against those kinds of reckless behaviors. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor DeHaan.
One thing that I just grabbed on from you is that the next week's most school lets out is that there's less bus activity, but our parks and rec camps utilize our school buses and everything else. And summer school. I don't know if the number of violations increases, decreases, or holds steady during the summer months when they're not used during specific school hours, but used throughout the days during the week. But I think we still see a.
Yeah, we'll definitely see some, but obviously you're not gonna have, whatever it is, 8,000 school kids on the roads every day, so.
I just want to make sure we still have those buses up. They're on the roads. They have children in them. They're moving around town at various points in time. So there still will be activity.
Yeah.
So I think,
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you never hope for it, but
Sure.
it will exist.
Unfortunately, yeah. Any other comment from council on this? I agree with what's been said. I think this is gonna be great and help enforce this law to keep our kids safe because I can't tell you how upset it makes me, seeing the cars pass a school bus. I remember, when I first moved to Connecticut, I worked for a insurance company. I sold car insurance. I remember learning about major violations. And passing a school bus is a major violation. You get points on your license. You can get your license suspended for that. It's serious and people need to take it seriously. So I'm glad we're gonna be able to enforce that. We had a motion by Councilor Floyd. It was seconded by Deputy Mayor Rada. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries unanimously. All right, moving right along. Next on the agenda is appropriation of additional municipal aid. We had talked about this last week, the additional monies that came to the state for schools in the town. Money for the school is going to the school and money for the town is going to the general fund. It's a long one, but Council Floyd, please read the resolution.
Resolved that the appropriations of the town of Newington are hereby amended for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2027 as follows to reflect the additional $928,230 in supplemental education aid appropriated to the town of Newington in Public Act 26-68. Appropriations, town government operations, general government, $7,047,362. Public safety, $11,702,047. Public works, $6,501,281. Community planning and development, $783,290. Public health, $291,718. Community services, $1,298,058. Public library, $2,177,191. Parks and recreation, $2,270,155. Insurance miscellaneous, $14,306,062. $46,377,164. Debt service, $3,006,325. Metropolitan District, $4,890,474. Capital improvements, $4,665,707. Equipment reserve, $1,517,931. Employee leave liability reserve fund, $8,000. Board of Education, $95,899,441. Total appropriations, $156,365,042. Be it further resolved that in accordance with section 805 of the Charter of the Town of Newington, the following general fund estimated revenues necessary to meet these appropriations shall be amended as follows. Estimated revenues, current taxes, $109,746,825. Prorated taxes, $1,006,267. Prior year's taxes, $400,000. Interest and liens, $400,000. Motor vehicle tax, $9,608,069. Payments in lieu of taxes, $6,397,373. Assessments, $18,548. Licenses and permits, $683,500. Rentals, $106,000. Investment income, $1,050,000. Fines, $29,000. Charges for services, $752,600. Refunds and reimbursements, $22,000. Sale of town property, $5,300. State aid, $20,153,218. Federal aid, $0. Miscellaneous, $120,000. Transfers from other funds, $241,342. $150,740,042. General fund balance applied, $5,625,000. Total estimated revenues and applied fund balance, $156,365,042. Be it further resolved that pursuant to section 178 of Public Act 26-68, this action is not subject to the requirements for adopting or amending the town's budget outlined in the Newington Town Charter. Be it further resolved that the clerk is hereby instructed to place the accompanying general fund budget summary on the record of this meeting to illustrate the above appropriations and revenue estimates.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Floyd, second by Councilor Gonzalez. Any discussion on this?
Please, can you read that again?
Yeah. You can. Councilor DeHaas.
I just want to confirm that
PTSD.
these do not ever hit the bottom line, so that we're appropriating this amount to the Board of Education, but it doesn't become part of the minimum requirement for next year.
The MBR. Oh,
Because of the way we're listing it in here.
I believe it does become part of the NBR, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, Lynn is saying no.
Linda's saying no, okay.
Thank you,
Okay,
Lynn.
Help us out,
It does not. Okay, thank you.
yeah. Not expecting that question.
Glad you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what the statute said. Very good. Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, we had a motion by Counselor Floyd, it was seconded by Counselor Gonzalez. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstained? All right, motion carries unanimously. All right, concludes item B. Next up is item C, administrative pay plan. Deputy Mayor Rado, would you please read that resolution?
Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby approves the 2026-2027 classification and pay plan for the administrative group pursuant to section 902 of the Newington Town Charter, which reflects 3% pay increases effective on July 1st.
Second.
All right, we had a motion by Deputy Mayor Rado, seconded by Counselor Siniakis. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries unanimously. All right, now we're moving right along to item D, which is draft bond language for fire station number 4. Does Matt need to read the whole bond language?
No.
Please.
No. I think in general, we can skip that, but
Okay.
So good at.
that would be, this is under new business just for now. So in your next meeting, you would formally introduce it so that it could be adopted. There would be a public hearing at the first meeting in July. Yeah, so many more. And this doesn't, and just so we're clear, that once you actually adopt you authorize the question on the referendum, then you have that non-advocacy period opens
Right.
up. And we can't use any town resources to advocate for or against it. Kind of can't really talk about it in council meetings. Certainly the fire commissioners can't really talk about it not even really, in their fire commission meetings. And we can be no expenditure of town funds in any way to advocate for or against it. But we're not there yet. We'll get to that stage in about 2 months. So all we're doing right now is getting this on your radar so it can be introduced, the resolution can be introduced at the next meeting for a public hearing in July.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, so the next step is at the next meeting, we're gonna formally introduce this. And at that meeting, we'll set the public hearing for the following meeting?
Correct.
Okay, so first meeting in July will be the public hearing.
Correct.
And then second meeting in July, conceivably, we would be voting on. the
Yeah, you could
language.
be putting it on the ballot. I could pull up
Okay.
pull up the timeline from last time. Give me 1 second here. Should I have this up?
While he's looking that up, I just wanted to point to, someone brought up in public participation, why don't we have a spending cap? Well, in this, in our memo here, we talk about our debt capacity, which really is our spending cap. So with this project that, as of right now, we have roughly $10 million available to bond out for. So that's our spending cap. So
So, to answer your question, John, so at the second meeting, you would have it was sort of the first meeting in July 14th, you would have the hearing, and that's when you would theoretically.
Oh, so we'd have
authorize-
the public hearing and then
Yeah.
we could, okay.
And you could actually move that back too.
So
We still have
take it
like
in.
2 extra meetings.
Okay.
We'll talk about that when we get into the fire truck.
Very good.
But yeah, and that is, noteworthy too, that Lauren did a debt capacity analysis. So sort of 2 pieces of this. First, had a conversation with our financial advisor. He made clear that we should be fine as far as maintaining our credit rating based on the feedback that we got the last round of financing. But so we're good on that sort of the bond rating standpoint. And then Lauren crunched the numbers to make sure that we were under we're in compliance with our financial policies. As you see from the memo, we are. There's not a whole lot of extra capacity in there once you factor in some of the authorized school debt that we have to incur. So, but
Councilor Draco?
Yeah, I'm just wondering about communication, if this passes and whatever, we get to the point where communications have to go out to the public to ensure that there's no biased communications coming out from the town or from the fire department. But I was just thinking back in terms of, the pool referendum and some of the town hall referendum, PACs were formed.
yeah.
I guess I'm just trying to figure out how, I don't know, how is the public gonna be made, is it just the public hearing that's gonna inform them of this project?
So there is a public mailer, there's an informational mailer that goes out, so everybody gets like a copy of that. And it's written in very plain, very, plain vanilla language, so that gets reviewed by bond counsel. James prepares it, gets reviewed by bond counsel to make sure it doesn't lean one way or another, and tip its hat. Unfortunately, by doing that, it doesn't give a whole lot of information about what you're really voting on. I think we saw that with the pool as well. As far as, that's sort of all we can do as the town because we're paying for it. But the PACs, that's outside of my purview. My understanding is election law allows PACs to be formed for the purpose of advocating for or against a referendum question. It's the same way as a political candidate. The key thing though is you'd have to have private money would have to fund that. So not a penny from town coffers could be used. And that even extends so you couldn't use the town, building as a place to talk about it. You'd have to do it off-site
Or
somehow.
billboards or anything?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Tiniakis?
Yeah, I just wanted to really highlight the debt capacity portion of this, right? Just more for like the public's knowledge. If/when this goes to referendum, if it passes, then essentially the town's gonna be right at the limit about what we can go out for bond for, right? So that ultimately is going to impact any and all future major projects that would be over $2 million for the town. So I think it's just really important to kind of like have the public be aware of that, you know what I mean? Because there's going to be a time period where we're gonna have to wait years. And when I say years, I mean like, 10, 15, 20 years for this debt to fall off. So that time period is going to be coming up on us where, the town itself isn't going to be able to just go out and get a loan essentially for big projects. We're gonna have to find other sources of revenue. We're gonna have to find other means, whether that's like with state money or private donations or anything that might be. But I think it's just really important that the people in Newington kind of understand where the town is at as far as our bonding is. So that way they kind of can anticipate how the next couple decades are gonna be as far as projects go.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Floyd?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Tiniakos, for explaining that a little bit for folks, because I think that's really, really important. I think we all understand how great of a need this particular project is, given the history, given the kind of service needs that this precinct takes on, growing service needs, I might add. So I think we all understand that, but there is a larger question here that I think we'll all have to consider and have a great discussion about as we continue to hear more from the public. I did have one question, kind of to Councilor Draco's point, but that mailer that you're referring to, Jonathan, is that like the explanatory text that was created for the?
Yeah,
rules?
that's exactly what it is. Yeah,
Okay.
that's, yeah.
I just wanted
Yeah.
to.
Thank you, Councilor. No action on this tonight. See you at the next meeting for further discussion on that. Moving right along, next is item E, veterans exemptions. We had a good conversation 2 weeks ago, and I understand we got a little bit more to discuss on that.
Yeah, and so Danielle's here, she has some additional information to the extent we get in the weeds, but I'm just keeping it high level here. And I want to make this is really a policy decision for you guys as a council. Danielle can talk about the numbers too, since you have them, but And right now, the only people that are eligible for veterans exemptions, and it's just on the dwelling, not on the land, are those with 100% service-related disability as determined by the Veterans Administration. Now, that doesn't cover every single person that was negatively impacted by their time in the military, such that they're unable to hold meaningful or gainful employment. So there's another category called TDIU. It's a mouthful. It's total disability based on individual unemployability. That covers that other category of people that might not have that 100% service-related disability. Now, according to Danielle's analysis, there's 13 people in Newington that meet that threshold.
That we know of.
That we know of, and we can talk about that in a second, but ultimately it's a question for you guys. Do you want to, and it is a cost that is borne by all of those of us who are not disabled as a result of military service. Do we as a community feel that that is in the public good to provide that additional subsidy, recognizing that that's a cost of close to $50,000? There's other in the Public Act that authorize these additional options, local options. You guys have the choice of adopting. There's a couple of other things in here that at a very high level I spelled out in my memo what the costs are. But again, I go back to, how much cross subsidization should there be of our tax bills? And that's a policy question for you guys that Danielle and I can't provide, really insight into. All we can do is provide you with numbers.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're up, Danielle.
Yeah, it's okay. I just wanted to, right at the beginning, really go over quick, just the overall veterans exemptions, because I think that's important to give you guys all the information that you need in order to make this decision. So the eligibility requirements for veterans exemptions is 90 days or more of service during one of the state mandated dates of war or military campaigns. They have to be a resident of the town of Newington by October 1st of the assessment date. They have to have a honorable discharge, DD 214, on file with the town clerk's office by September 30th. These are just kind of the dates of service. Just as a quick overview. So at its most base, right, there are typically 3 types of veterans exemptions before we even get to local options and the permanent and total. So there's a base veterans exemption, there's a veterans with disabilities exemption, and then we have an additional veterans exemption that's income-based. So once a veteran's DD 214 is filed with the town clerk's office and the assessor's office has determined that they're eligible, veterans get a $3,000 exemption off of their assessment. So it starts off the assessment before we even calculate the taxes. So if a veteran has a disability rating and are not deemed permanent and total, not permanent and total, just have a disability rating, their exemption amount with the $3,000 included will be based on a scale based on whatever percentage the VA has decided that their rating is for their disability. And that goes all the way up to 10,500 off the assessment for those who are 76 to 100% disabled. Now, veterans 65 years and older with a 10% or more disability rating, the VA are eligible for the 10,500 exemption off of their assessment. And then now I mentioned before the veterans of low income. So the state has a program much like homeowners where veterans whose total income is less than $55,001 for married or $45,002 for single, including surviving spouses, or if they are 100% VA disabled, not permanent and total, the income threshold comes down to only $21,000 for married, $18,000 for single. And that includes their Social Security. They then would qualify for an additional exemption in the amount twice their regular exemption off of their assessment. So whatever, if you look at that disability rating scale, whatever their rating is, you would double that. And this is, it has an application period, February 1st through October 1st, and we require proof of income for that. Newington actually already has adopted one local option for veterans to kind of tag along with the income program that the state has for these veterans. So veterans whose total income is less than 62,600 for married, 55,700 for single. The town of Newington grants an additional $10,000 off of the veterans assessment. It has the same filing period. It's the same form. So all we do is take the form, the state form, look at it, and if they're eligible under that income for both, we give them both.
Perfect.
I skipped the whole thing. That's it. We're done. But those are the base exemptions. I just wanted to go over that with you guys really, really quick. So you kind of see the whole picture of the different things that veterans are eligible for. And also, hopefully a veteran who's watching this right now and is going to give my office a call tomorrow and say, wow, I only get the 3,000. I have a 20% disability. Here's my letter, you know, or just somebody who doesn't get the benefit, but is eligible for it. So now,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Can you also pass this along to us so we can?
Sorry, this came in late. I wasn't,
That's
I didn't
okay.
get it in time.
Oh,
I was
no,
in
not a
class last
problem.
week.
Thank
So I
you.
will absolutely get this to you guys.
Thank you so much.
Now, the 100% disabled permanent and total veterans exemption, which is why I'm here. It's that Public Act 24-46 enacted subsection 83 to the Connecticut General Statutes. I'm not going to read it. It's basically veterans who are 100% disabled and have a permanent and total designation from the VA get their dwelling exempt, not the land. So so this just reiterates that. The exemption only applies to veterans who are able to show they have a 100% disability rating. And that has also been deemed permanent and total by the Department of Veterans Affairs. So this is kind of Newington by the numbers. For just the permanent and total, we had 40 veterans that were eligible for a total assessment of about 6.7 million, which comes out to about $197,156 in taxes. So when that first law came out, there were a lot of questions. The Assessor Association in the state was like, clarify, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does that mean? So they passed PA 25-168, which made some administrative changes to the statute, clarifying that permanent and total exemption should be based on the veteran's percentage of ownership. So if a veteran only has 50% ownership of a dwelling, they're only going to get 50% exempted. It allows properties to be held in a trust, provided the veteran is responsible for the taxes, or they hold life use, which is very, very common, especially in our aging population. It also clarified that the veteran must annually apply to the assessor's office no later than January 1st and show all documentation necessary to demonstrate that the veteran has 100% permanent and total disability rating. Only because sometimes the VA can say, you're better, we're going to remove that designation. And so we require the letter from the VA that they get every year now. We do send those out very, very early, follow up with every veteran as much as we can to make sure that they don't forget about us. It also created several local options for municipalities to consider. So the first one allows a municipality to include up to 2 acres of land in addition to the dwelling, because the original statute only exempted the dwelling, not the land. So this would impact 27 properties, and not the total amount, because there are I believe, couple condos, so they don't have land, which would be about 1.6 million in assessment and $48,178 with the 29.41 mill rate. That would be the tax implication on the town. The second one allows a municipality to allow surviving spouses of 100% permanent and total veterans who passed away prior to October 1st of 2024 to be eligible. So the statute only allowed for surviving spouses of these 100% permanent and total veterans to be eligible if the veteran passed away after October 1st of 2024. It was just unfortunately the language of the statute. So this just kind of allows those veterans who passed away prior to that date. It's hard to really know how many. As far as we could tell, it was about two properties that would be impacted for an assessment of $365,550, which would be about $10,751 is a tax implication. The third one allows a municipality to limit the total exemption to the median assessed value of residential property in the municipality. So this one's kind of the opposite of the other ones, where we would then be capping the assessment of the dwelling to 240,380 as an assessed value. So that would then add $922,460 of assessment and $27,130 in additional revenue back to the town by capping that. The one we are all here for allows a municipality to exempt the dwelling for those veterans with service-connected total disability based on individual employability. So this estimate on this slide is based on the letters that we have in our office. So we scanned through all the letters with the VA ratings just to see how many we could find that had the TDIU on them. So with anything else, this is just an estimate and is likely to change once word gets out. You know, when people know they have TDIU, they'll hopefully come on into the office. So it's about 13 properties for a $1.6 million assessment and a tax implication of $48,471. Really briefly, I'm going to go over the difference between 100% permanent and total and TDIU. So 100% permanent and total uses the VA rating schedule by evaluating the severity of a veteran's service-connected condition and reduced earning capacity. This rating is assigned to the veteran as a percentage. So the highest rating is 100%, which means that the veteran is totally disabled and deemed by the VA to be a permanent disability. Where TDIU isn't necessarily that the veteran is 100% disabled, but they are unable to maintain and substantially gainful occupation due to their service-connected disabilities. So they're two different ratings. One is unemployability, the other is you have a disability that is never going to get better. The last one allows a municipality to exempt the dwelling for Gold Star spouses. Any spouse of a veteran who was killed in action. We actually don't have any based on our records, but certainly, you know. So this is just kind of a quick overview of all of them. I think you have this data in front of you. Just each one broken down. The other thing I went and found today was what other municipalities have done. So we have about 9 that have done the exemption up to 2 acres, about 11 who have extended it to surviving spouses. 4 have capped it at the median assessed value. 14 have extended it, the exemption and done the TDIU. And then about 6 have done Gold Star spouses. And this is probably little old data. I kind of sift through all my assessor, association emails because we were all, hey, our town did this. So, but it should be pretty close to what's out there by way of what other towns have done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll kick us off. I think, obviously you said council feedback is requested, but we also said we have some time to make a decision on this, and I'm glad we're taking some steps. I just want to say I'm really glad we're taking this up. Politicians, we love to talk about veterans and thank you for your service. We speak at the Memorial Day Parade, we speak at Veterans Day. We love doing that kind of thing. When it comes time to actually doing something for veterans, you hear, well, we don't have the money, or well, it's that. And I think at this point in time, I'm psyched to be doing this. This is why I got into politics. So we can actually take up these issues and do these things that actually help people that deserve it. And so I'm glad we're taking this up. Counselor Floyd.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Danielle. And
Of
thank you,
course.
Jonathan, for all your help getting us the information on this. And like the mayor said, we've got some time to make a decision, no rush, but I'm also really grateful that we're taking this up. In my day job about, I don't know, 2 years ago, year and a half ago, I started to hear from a lot of people calling our office and saying that I've applied for this exemption and I think I am eligible because the wording seems kind of like semantics, but I've been denied because this local policy, prevented me from being eligible. My first reaction was that that's insane and that there's that frankly, maybe the constituent got it wrong and that there was something else going on there. But I started to hear it from a lot of people. And I realized that this was a really prevalent issue among veterans in town. Is something that a lot of veterans were talking about. We're going to each other about trying to get some feedback. And so I brought it to the team and I'm really, really glad that we were able to bring it to staff as a suggestion for some policy action and so that we can continue to consider it. I really think that at the end of the day, what this is dealing with is just government bureaucracy. Is that somebody who's served our country, who is not able to keep gainful employment because of a service-connected disability, that they should be eligible for this exemption period, regardless of the word or checkbox they might hit on one piece of paper or another. And I know that's how a lot of veterans feel about it. That's how I feel about it. So I'm hopeful, obviously we can continue to have this conversation, but I'm hopeful that council will move forward with that. I think it's fourth option listed here, the TDIU option, because I think it'd be very important for us to provide that to our veterans. That's my point of view.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
Counselor Tiniakis?
Hi, just so I make sure I'm reading this right, when it says 26, 27 tax implications, that's the amount that the town would absorb, right? As far as like, so.
Yeah, whatever the tax implication would be, because it wouldn't be for the grand list that the tax bills are coming out now. It'll be for the October 1, 2026 grand list.
And those numbers like would slightly fluctuate year over
Based
year
on
with
the
like,
mill rate. Yep.
yeah, maybe, and then like people who qualify even, right?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, I know we're not taking action or anything like that, but I'm in the mindset that we could do multiple of these options, to be honest. That's just like where my head's at with this. I think it's well deserved.
Thank you, Counselor. Deputy Mayor Rada?
Yes, thank you. I know that as a child of veterans, one from the US, World War II, one from Canada, World War II, no longer with us, but they were able to take, through my dad, were able to take advantage of the initial exemption that you talked about. And also having had experience with someone who was going through the process of exemption after service, it can sometimes be a very daunting and tedious process to go through. And it can be exhausting. So my feeling is anything that we can do to assist folks who have served and their spouses certainly has my support. And I want to thank you for continuously coming and coming back with more information and really, you just explained things so well. And I also appreciate the visuals as well. So thank you again. And I think it's real important information that we have so that we can make informed decisions and a decision that will positively impact our community. Thank you.
The comments from Counselor? Let's keep it on the agenda. Keep talking about it and move forward.
So much.
Thanks, Danielle. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for the beautiful PowerPoint. All righty. That'll conclude old business. Moving on, tax refunds, Councilor Draco.
Resolved that property tax refunds in the amount of $1,018.76 are hereby approved in the individual amounts and for those named on the request for refund of an overpayment of taxes certified by the revenue collector, a list of which is attached to this resolution.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Draco, second by Councilor Gonzalez. Any discussion? None, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries unanimously. Item 9, minutes from previous meetings. Any changes to the minutes from May 26, 2026 regular meeting? Councilor DeHaas, Deputy Mayor Rada?
I'm deferring to Counselor DeHaas. What did you find?
Nothing. I didn't have anything.
Excellent. All
All right.
right, I entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Councilor DeHaas. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained?
I'm gonna abstain as I wasn't at the meeting.
Oh, fair enough. All right, very good. Motion carries eight yes, 0 no, 1 abstention. There you go. Threw a
So I
curveball.
did watch it many times.
You threw a curveball.
Yeah, sorry, sorry.
Alright. Next up is resignations and appointments. We do have an open spot on as a liaison to the Board of Education Negotiating Committee of the Newington Teachers Association. It's an informal appointment. If she's willing, I would ask Councilor Hilda Nieves if you'd take on that role. Yes? No, there's nothing to read. No, there's nothing to read.
It's just a mayoral.
Yeah, this is just me appointing you. You just have to say, yeah, I'm willing or no.
I'm willing.
Let's put it up. Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Counselor. All right. Very good. Well, Counselor Draco?
We're just wondering whether, we can have, I know it's just a liaison position, it's a non-voting position, but, since the Board of Ed, budget is a substantial amount of the overall town budget, we would be interested as a minority party of being able to have a liaison sit in as well, if that would be the objections to anybody.
Councilor Floyd?
Thank you, Mayor. I see no problem with that at all. I will say that I know that council has had this liaison before and that the majority party, when the shoe was on the other foot, put up one liaison without the minority party having a liaison offered to them in that moment. I think it's important in most situations that our council work in one voice, especially when interacting with other town agencies. But certainly I'm not going to stand in the way of that. I think bipartisanship is important.
Councilor DeHaas?
The reason why I was asking for the requests and everything was just solely because of the budget season we just went through and how challenging it was. Having two sets of eyes, two sets of ears in there on behalf of council and having representation from both sides, I thought would be beneficial to all involved.
I agree.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, as Majority Leader Floyd has said.
Just Matt.
Matt, I would not be opposed to that either, having liaison from Democrats and Republicans, as we do for most, if not all of our boards and committees. I would support that.
Councilor Draco, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, I'd like our current Board of Ed liaison to also serve in this capacity, Kelly DeHaas.
All right, well, let it be known that Kelly DeHaas is appointed to serve as a liaison on the committee as well with Councilor Nieves. Great job. Good guys. All right, that'll conclude item 10. Moving on to consideration of new business. Item A, referendum for replacement of fire truck number 1.
Yeah, so there's on the fire commissioner's agenda for Thursday night. There would be a matter to recommend that the council approve a referendum to purchase a replacement fire truck number 1. The cost of that truck is, oops, I'm on the wrong page, excuse me. 2.5. Give me 1 second, sorry.
Oh, 2.6.
Yeah.
Yeah, $2,587,500, which is about $200,000 over the threshold for a referendum in the charter. You know, what's interesting about the the charter language, and I don't know if, you know, next time the council opens up the charter for possible revisions, I think you might want to look at the language about referendum. It says very specifically, a successful referendum shall allow for the quote, issuance of bonds or notes. And bonds or notes are legal securities. So if we issue bonds or notes, we are legally, we put our full faith and credit of the town behind them, and we're legally obligated to pay them, pay our debtors, our creditors, excuse me. But there's a gray area there in that it doesn't allow, for example, just a pay as you go. You couldn't just take fund balance and buy a fire truck from a referendum. It doesn't, the charter simply doesn't allow for that. So anyways, there's a long-winded thing, but I think there's a nuance here that I want to convey to you, because the council is going to have an option about how to handle this if you want to proceed. So if you want to go down the path of having a referendum, you can do that without the need for another special meeting, with this is the last time to get the ball rolling. However, there's another way of doing it as well, and that would be through, right now, for example, we generally buy our fire trucks, buy our apparatus with lease purchase arrangements. And what's interesting about a lease purchase arrangement, it's not a security, it's not a bond or a note. And so all you're doing with a lease purchasing agreement is you're just on an annual basis, usually 5 years, you're appropriating money to pay off that lease purchase arrangement. But you're not obligated, like if you don't make payments on that lease purchase agreement, you just return the truck to the manufacturer, the dealer, or whoever. So in that sense, it's not really a debt instrument in the strictest sense. So based on our conversations with the town attorney, as an alternative to having a referendum on this, you could simply just do it as a lease purchase agreement. And then you'd just be essentially paying something like $600,000 per year, appropriating it annually, and that would circumvent the referendum process. However, because there is no guarantee for the lender with a lease purchase agreement, the interest rates that a lease purchase agreement would have would be maybe 150 basis points. And when I say 150 basis point is 0.01%. So 150 basis points, let's say, higher than what you get on a muni. My understanding is AA munis right now, 20 years, are about 4%, a little over 4%. Whereas I think lease purchase agreement for 5 years would be more like the 6%. So there's trade-offs. Obviously, a referendum allows for transparency, lower interest rates, but there's also some ancillary costs that go along with that, underwriters fees, bond counsel fees, things like that, and also just the cost of doing the referendum in the first place. But then if you go to the lease purchase agreement, maybe you don't have the full buy-in of the community, so maybe it has the perception of less transparent, and you have the higher interest rate. So it's a kind of a 6 of one, half dozen of the other option for you. I would say this: we could, based on our financial policies, it's going to be tight, and I think if the referendum if we were to hold a referendum on this fire truck, and we wouldn't actually probably issue, and it was successful, we probably wouldn't issue the bonds until probably spring or maybe summer of 2027. By that point, some of the debt on our books would have matured. So I think we would probably just get below the $50 million cap on outstanding debt that is in our financial policy. So I think we just thread the needle there. But obviously, if we went the lease purchase agreement, it's not technically debt. It wouldn't factor into our debt capacity analysis. So those are some considerations. What I would suggest is whatever council sort of decides tonight, and I think I've just dumped a lot on your lap, we can still move this along so that at the next meeting, we can tee up this to be under old business so you can continue to have the conversation. But I wanted to make sure that was on your radar. I know the fire commission members, I think Frank is here, and two chiefs are here. And I'm sure they have thoughts as well. So happy to entertain any questions.
I'll turn it over to council. I just have a quick question first. Have we ever had to go to referendum for a piece of emergency equipment?
In my 2 years serving, we've not, but.
Councilman Dranko, have we ever had to go to referendum for any
That's
kind of
actually was,
emergency equipment?
was gonna be my question. I don't recall purchasing or going for a new fire piece of equipment with a referendum.
But-
We've always
but-
done the lease
But
purchase.
also
The rising
inflation.
costs.
Yeah, the
of the
inflation
cost of
around
this, yeah.
fire trucks has been so much faster than the general rate of inflation.
Yeah.
That, you know, when we bought this in 2006, the truck that we're gonna replace, I want to say it was like 750,000. Does that sound right, chief? Yeah, so, I mean, much faster than inflation. So that's part of the reason for that.
Deputy Mayor Rada.
That was exactly my question, was have we, how have these been purchased in the past? And how successful that has been, and just thinking about the length of time that it takes, and you can speak to this, please, to order the truck with everything, all the bells and whistles, pardon my pun, that you need. How long a period of time that takes, and with this kind of lease purchase, are we locked into a price at that point in time that is not going to increase within those couple of years that it takes to actually construct the vehicle?
Yep, so once we actually go into an agreement and sign the contract that says we're gonna purchase this vehicle, we're locked in. So right now, the average build time is anywhere from 3 to 5 years. On a ladder truck, it's roughly 4 years. Are they looking to take that down a little bit? Obviously, they're trying their best to get that back in the realm of a year or two, but that's gonna be years out. There's backlogs of fire trucks. I think they're at 5,000 backlog of fire trucks being made. So, yeah, it takes about 4 years right now. So when we ordered our last ladder truck, we ordered that in 2019 and we received it in 2023. So it's 4 years. Just like our recent engine was a 4-year build time also.
Can you just explain or describe a ladder truck
So
versus an engine versus?
yeah, so an engine carries hose and water to be able to put the fires out. A ladder truck also carries a pump on it that actually carries water and hose on it to put fires out. But a ladder truck also actually goes up and rescues people's out of windows, roofs. It can go up to 100 feet up in the air. So it helps us get into apartment buildings, condos, houses. So what we do in Newington, any commercial, any apartment building, any condo, we'll automatically send 2 ladder trucks there. Because you never know, for a fire spread across a building, it can be fairly quick nowadays. So we have to have ladder trucks in place to be able to work, get to the roofs, cut holes in the roofs, do whatever we gotta do to rescue people and sort. So a ladder truck is very important. The ladder truck that we're replacing is actually 20 years old this year.
That has a
So
bucket?
that actually has a bucket. So it's 20 years old. So when this truck comes in, it's gonna be 25 years old, 24 years old. So NFPA standards wants you to replace the trucks at the 25-year mark. They want them actually out of service or as what they call a reserve piece at that point, not a frontline piece of apparatus. That's the NFPA standard nowadays.
And I think that was one question that some of us had was what is the length of time that you can comfortably and safely keep a piece of apparatus?
Yeah, so 25 years is like we have a replacement plan in place of 20 years. Obviously, sometimes it just doesn't work out exactly. We work with Hermes, the mechanic, who dictates when our apparatus are to be replaced. And he's been very good in helping us along the process. So he sets the dates of when stuff gets replaced. So like I said, 20-year is our goal. It's kind of got pushed out a little bit to almost 25 years. But like I said, NFPA likes them 25 years out of frontline and put into a reserve status.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna jump on the back of that because my question is related. If it takes 5 years to make it, when do we start making the payments on the plan? Do we start paying it when we get it or before?
So it all depends on how that's a caveat that the town.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't budget for this year, so if we were gonna make, I mean, the payments on a lease purchase agreement in this amount wouldn't be something we could just hide in a budget.
Right,
We'd
right,
have
right,
to
no.
Either
You
do
have to
a
budget for
supplemental
it.
appropriation or wait until next year for that first payment. So those things will come out as we get guidance from you guys on timing.
And then depending on what we choose to pay upfront, sometimes you get credits of what you pay. So if you prepay certain parts of the truck, you get a discount.
Okay.
So there was a breakdown that I gave the town manager of all the breakdowns of what discounts are available to us as a town.
Thank you. Councilor Draco?
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that I don't ever recall going to referendum for a fire apparatus. We always did it the lease purchase.
We did, correct.
So obviously, if we went to referendum, it would depend on the results of referendum before you could lock in a price or whatever versus, well, we still have to wait till July 1st. I guess what I'm trying to figure, where can we get where can we make the lock-in of a price? Before
Well, I
going
think
to
part of it is
inflation next year?
exploring with the banks about exactly the structure of the timing of payments on, I mean, and I just can't answer the question. That would be a question for the finance department. You know, Karen's kind of first thing to focus on when she gets on board is reach out to banks and find out what the terms of a lease purchase agreement would be. I think that would kind of dictate some of these specific questions.
Yeah, but once we sign the contract, just to let you know, that is a locked-in price. So once the town agrees to the purchase, we sign a contract, send it over, there's no price increase. There are certain manufacturers that actually do price increases. The manufacturer we use does not do a price increase.
So like if, I don't know, we did the investigation, whatever, we went with the lease purchase, we can possibly get the information from the banks, blah, 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 before November, and lock in a price where if we went the referendum route, that would leave us vulnerable to price increases.
fluctuation, yeah, for sure.
So just to let you know, on an average, year to year, it's a 5% increase on the price of the vehicles, just on an average. That's not to say that it couldn't be more or less, but that's the average, 5%.
Thank you.
Councilor Floyd?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Chief, for answering so many questions, and you as well, Jonathan. I don't have any further questions beyond what my friends have asked, but I will say, I think two impulses that I have is one, that it's maybe a bit confusing for the public to explain to them why they would be voting in a referendum on an item that they've never voted on before. So I think, regardless of the way you cut it, there needs to be a lot of public education about what is happening in this particular instance, which comes with its own challenges. But more than that, I'm also concerned that, as has been described, we're really getting up to that ceiling in our debt capacity. And I am concerned about using that precious room that we have left that we might need for another project, or God forbid, an emergency, for something like this, when there is a suitable option available to us. I do think we need to do a lot of work to explain to the public why we did the lease purchase as well, even if it is typically standard, because we want to make sure that we're being transparent. But that's kind of where my impulse is, to steer away from the referendum at this point in time.
Councilor Tiniakis?
Thank you for your insight. I think it's silly to have to go to referendum for an emergency vehicle. I mean, if anyone's house is on fire, or God forbid you're stuck in a car and you need to get cut out, I don't think you're worried about your taxes in that moment, right? So yeah, I agree with our town manager that, maybe we should seriously consider taking a look at the charter and maybe just updating it with the times. Like you said, costs tripled in less than like 20 years, so you might just have to update it. So that way we don't have to run into an issue like this, because I think this is just a little silly.
I just want to reiterate, with all this new development in town, I mean, the ladder truck's extremely important. I mean, you look at the Spark on Cedar Street right now, you look at the proposal in the center of town, you look at 333, we had Culver Street. I mean, these are all high buildings, 3-4 stories. So just want to keep that in mind, that it is extremely important that we do this either way.
Council Gonzalez?
My question was kind of answered. It was just about payment. So the money comes out of the budget? Is that how it gets budgeted? Because I'm just thinking back and I just may not be remembering properly, but when we go line by line by line, I don't remember seeing.
It would be in the equipment reserve. So
Okay.
it's. yeah.
Correct.
Okay,
The capital improvement, equipment reserve fund.
gotcha. So, and this is something, just so the public understands, that you have done always. It's not something new.
No.
The only reason we're even talking about this is because the price of things have gone up so much and it's hit this level.
Correct.
Going to referendum would be good.
Correct. So,
We've always done lease purchase for all of
correct.
our.
So we're not,
Correct.
if we go this way, it's what we've always done.
Correct.
Yeah, I think it's important for them to understand that.
Councilor DeHaas?
You mentioned the NFPA standards are 25 years. Are there other criteria that are taken into consideration when they drafted the standards for replacement?
Yeah, so NFPA looks at age of the vehicle, they look at wear and tear on the vehicle, they look at a bunch of stuff. I can get you the exact breakdown of the NFPA standard if you'd like, and I could send it to you guys.
So do we have an analysis based on all of the criteria for the truck you're asking to replace?
Yes. So like I said, the mechanic is the one that actually dictates when it should be replaced.
If you're able to share the report with us, I would
Absolutely.
appreciate that.
Yep.
That's actually a critical thing that you've said. We've set it up, and I really like this, the way that the town has set it up to make Hermes Lavoy, our chief mechanic, as the wizard of our fleet. And it sort of creates a firewall between all the different departments that have requests. So it's a good process.
Very good. Yeah, I think, like you said, we'll keep it on the agenda till the next meeting, we'll mull it over, but my instinct is to not go to referendum for this. I think it sets a bad precedent personally. I appreciate the transparency aspect of it, but I think, we're talking about a fire truck. We're not hiding the pool in the fire truck. It doesn't fit. I think it's just a bad precedent when we look at emergency vehicles because God forbid there's an emergency and we need to do it sooner and we're waiting for an election. It just doesn't seem practical to me for an emergency vehicle. So I think that's sort of where I stand now, but
And then what would happen, God forbid, if it didn't pass?
exactly.
I mean, then we don't have a
And
fire truck
then-
to,
yeah.
just, it would be crazy.
I don't even want to think of
We
that.
don't wanna go down that road.
But it would be
We don't wanna
crazy.
go down that road. So yeah, I appreciate,
I appreciate the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to be clear, unless the audio, conveniently cut out, we are not putting a pool in a fire truck. We are not.
We're not
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
fill
yeah.
a pool.
We'll see that on Facebook tomorrow. Oh, they're putting a pool. in a
You're
fire
sneaking
truck.
in a pool with a fire truck.
Well, then it'll be the fire station and will become the pool.
Yeah.
Surprise. No. Very good. All right, so we're gonna move on to item B, 2025-26 budget transfers. We're not taking any action tonight.
Yeah, well, yeah, and Lauren, can you walk us through the memo?
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So, in general, we're going to end the year roughly $1 million down from the adopted budget and revenues, but our tax rate remains stable. And we also saw a slight decrease in state and pilot aid, which is generally accountable to of the change in adult education, a decrease in cannabis tax collected, and then also a decrease in ECS funding, which we are continuing to look into. However, our interest earnings did come in about $800,000 over what was budgeted to be received. We do have some appropriations that need to take place for expenditures in our budget. You'll see on page 2 of the memo that we broke down for you, which accounts are showing negative balance. So the first being the highway department, and that is mainly due to the 2 really big winter storms we had this year eating through their overtime. I'm sure everyone can appreciate the amount of work that they needed to do to get those roads cleared for both of those storms. Also in the Parks Administration line item, there was a vacation payout for a retiree, and that needs to be covered through an appropriation now. And then in our equipment reserve, we are moving $30,000 from the firefighting fringe benefits line item. Sorry. Most of this is coming from contingency. You'll see $39,627 from contingency, and then that $30,000 transfer from firefighting. Also, we are asking for an additional transfer not to exceed $175,000, which should roughly be the balance left in contingency at the end of the year, to go into an additional contribution to the pension plan. In the past 2 years, we have asked for a resolution of a transfer not to exceed 300,000. It's been something that you guys have kind of taken as standard at the end of the year, just taking some of that budgeted money and helping us add it into the pension. We also need to close out a CIP account that was created for the National Welding site. That site work is complete, and that account has roughly $62,000 left in it. You'll see that that is being asked to transfer into the radio lease line item, which helps us with the current the lease for the radio tower, and also into the tax revaluation reserve. So we are running a deficit right now in the 2025 revaluation. The RFPs came in slightly over what was put into the CIP over the last 5 years. And we are hopeful that this will not happen again in 2030 because we have asked for additional funding into CIP for the reval for this exact reason, and also to help us cover legal costs from appeals in the future.
Thank you,
Attached to the
Lauren.
memo is also, oh, sorry.
No, you're good, you're good. Go ahead.
So attached to the memo is also the breakdown of the current expenditures and revenues. The expenditures also go into what is anticipated to be at the end of the fiscal year. So it's not just what we've currently spent through month 11, but what we plan on spending or anticipate spending through month 12. And there's also a draft resolution for the next meeting highlighting the transfers that I just talked about.
All right, very good. Thank you, Lauren. Council Floyd?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Lauren. Appreciate the information, and I hope you feel better. I just one couple questions maybe. One was about the ECS funding. I know we're looking into that together with our partners at the State Department. Can you just speak to how that outreach has gone so far?
Yeah, so I mean, actually, your email that you forwarded was instructive. They indicated that there was some withholding. I can't speak to it knowledgeably, and Lauren and I are gonna follow up with them, see if that there's, double check those numbers, make sure that everything checks. And probably work with, I'll follow up with Lynn as well on some of that. But it does appear that we're, just to fill in the full council, that we received, I think, 477,000 less than what we budgeted for ECS this year. And we'll get to the bottom of that and make sure that it's not a systemic problem and it's corrected.
Thank you for that. And I know that obviously we just tonight approved that $928,000 in supplemental education aid. And I know that our delegation, that a few of them serve on the working group that's trying to repair the ECS formula once and for all. So obviously we appreciate their efforts, and it seems like this might be something at the administrative level that's important for us to look into. So I appreciate staff looking into that. We certainly understand the overtime issue with all the storms. It makes a lot of sense that we would see that here. I have not a question, but I also just want to make a comment that I'm grateful that we continue paying, making these additional contributions to our pension plan so aggressively. I think that's a really important standard that we've set over the last couple of years at this council, and I'm glad that we'll have the room and the space to do it again.
And just to highlight to council, I mean, that it is a priority because we are underfunded both on the police pension as well as the legacy, or dormant, frozen legacy pensions that were here. And that if we don't get those corrected, they will be an anchor around our waist for some time.
Thank you. Thank you, Stan.
Councilor DeHaas?
Thank you. That answered my question regarding the pension funds. I was wondering if it was fully funded or if we're using these to catch up on that. I guess I was looking at the next page where we have the status of expenditures by department. And I know our Board of Ed CFO is here, but it looks like we've spent or encumbered about half of the existing budget. It just looks when you're looking at it along the line items, it just looks a little crazy, and then in the next 30 days, it's zeroed out. So I don't know if you can shed.
Which page? What's the?
Shade.
Okay. Mhm.
What code?
It's just.
It says
the
status of
breakdown.
expenditures
It's the
by
status of
activity.
expenditures. But when you're looking at it, you have your 25-26 budget, and then the spent and encumbered amounts by 5:30. And then the estimated to be spent by 6:30. So I guess that.
Oh, on the Board of Ed, yeah.
Yeah, that grabbed my attention where we had the $91 million budget and then the 45 million spent, and then the full amount spent by 6:30, which it looks like in 30 days, you're spending $46 million. I'm not saying.
I don't
but it
know
just
how to
grabbed
answer
my-
that
it
question,
grabbed
but
my eye.
either between Lynn or Lauren. Lauren, do you want to take a stab at that and? Or Lynn? Or,
Sure.
yeah, whatever, whoever can answer the question.
That grabbed my eye
Yeah,
as being
yeah,
an outlier there. I just
Absolutely.
want to make sure it makes sense.
I'm pretty sure what you're seeing is through April, not through May, because I haven't presented May to the Board of Education yet. So those happen. And then the teachers have 5 paychecks that run on the last payday of the year because they get
Balloon
paid over the
payment?
summer,
Okay.
or there's a balloon payment. So there's a very large amount of money that gets paid out.
Okay.
Yeah, we've spent a lot more than that.
It was just something that caught my eye as an outlier when I'm looking down the list and where spending is sitting as we approach the end of the fiscal year versus.
We currently have unencumbered money of less than 1.8 million.
Okay.
And that's being encumbered every day.
That makes more sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Any other questions from council? Appreciate your work on this. See you again at the next meeting about it. Moving on, item C, tax expense list. This is an annual thing we do every year, right before at the end of the year. So, yeah, we'll keep it on the agenda. Anybody have any questions about that? All right, if not, we will leave it on the agenda for action at our next meeting. That'll conclude new business. Now moving right along, town manager report.
A couple of things to bring you up to speed on. Obviously, we talked about the $2 million bond commission award for the town center. And as I think the mayor alluded to, the steering committee will start working on that and then come back with a recommendation to council, hopefully sometime late summer, early fall, on how to start to spend that money. In addition to that, two other grants to make you guys aware of. The first one is we received $617,600 in a lot SIP grant for road improvements. And this specifically is for connecting so this summer, we're gonna have, as most of you know, the DOT is going to do a sidewalk project on Cedar Street from Fenn all the way to Alumni and Maple Hill. But the concern was raised when we had a public information meeting back about a year ago that all of the houses, there's like 125 houses that are accessible through Vincent Drive. They are essentially landlocked with no access, no pedestrian access out of them. So Chris Zabidio, God bless him, applied for a $617,000 lot SIP grant to extend that sidewalk. I guess we have a question. The next question is, should that sidewalk be installed basically to connect Maple Hill to Vincent? But should that sidewalk be installed on the north side of Cedar or the south side of Cedar? That's a subject for a public information meeting. We want to get some community buy-in on that before we start to design the actual sidewalks. So stay tuned for more information about that. In addition, thanks to the hard work of Senator Lesser, we got a combined with Rocky Hill and Weathersfield, we received $250,000. So let's say split 3 ways or maybe based on population for nutrition assistance. So the Meals on Wheels and the congregate lunch program. So that is a lot. So I mean, that's basically like a year's worth of meals for Jamie. So that's really good news. And there was a meeting earlier today about how with the 3 towns about how the mechanics of that. So more to come on kind of where the rubber hits the road, but at a high level, we're covered for nutrition program for a while. On the personnel side, as I think all of you know, DJ Zordon, who's been our fire marshal for the last 5+ years, will be leaving us. His last day is Friday. We're gonna do a little bagels and coffee on Friday morning. So please come out if you are available, I think at 9 o'clock. No, but and we wish him obviously great success. And I think at the commissioners meeting, fire commissioners meeting on Thursday, the commissioners will make an acting appointment. And then that will allow us to start looking for a permanent replacement for DJ. On the hiring front, we have 2 conditional officers out to new police officers, 2 very qualified candidates. I think will do a great job. We also have a conditional offer out to an operator 1 in the highways department, a young man who I think will be a really good long-term hire. And finally, we have a new assistant town clerk, Eva Griskowski, will be starting, I think, in maybe a week or 2 in that role. So we're excited about that. I guess a week from tomorrow, the 17th of June at the TPZ, there'll be a public hearing in the TPZ about the regulations to implement Public Act 25-1. So that'll be an interesting discussion and see how that plays out. And it could be continued into the next meeting. So I suspect that'll take a couple of weeks before Paul gets that right. There was a question from Ms. Lyons about the status of the Stoddard Avenue and New Britain Avenue streetscape improvements. And I think I've sort of briefed council, but just for the benefit of Ms. Lyons and the public at large, we are targeting going out to bid on both of those projects right after the new year so that we can start work in sort of mid-spring, let's say April-ish, May-ish, for those projects to get underway. So hopefully by this time next year, both projects are, I say that,
Cutting
everything
ribbons.
lasts longer.
Yeah.
I'm jinxing myself, but
Don't say
that's the
that.
goal. That's the answer to Rose's question. I suspect, AJ, apologies if I'm stealing your thunder, but I hope to see you all at Newington Goes Country on Thursday night. I will be in my full cowboy hat, cowboy boots,
sweet.
with spurs, regalia, chaps, and I'll be.
Wow.
I'm kidding. I'm
You're
kidding.
better now.
I know.
It's in the record.
Oh, yeah, I know. And then, of course, the following day, Food Truck Friday. So I think that's a great end of the week tradition in Newington. And last but not least, I will be on vacation starting the day after our next meeting, continuing on until after July, until I think I get back on July 6th. So I'll be out for about 12 days. So this is why Lauren will be in charge in my absence, but I will be here for all town council meetings. So
Thank you, Jonathan. Any questions from council? Councilor Floyd?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jonathan, so much for that update. A lot of really positive, really exciting news there. What to start with first? First, the LOTSIP and the amount for Meals on Wheels and elderly nutrition. I'm just going to take those 2 together. Tonight, we had an item on our agenda to appropriate additional money from the state for education. We've talked about $2 million for our town center. We have this LOTSIP money that Chris and others worked very hard to get, but our delegation also advocated behind the scenes very hard for us to get as well. And we have this Meals on Wheels money. I mean, I think I just want to say a massive, massive thank you to our delegation for the work that they've done on our behalf, because this is what happens when we work collaboratively with them and encourage them to fight for the priorities that we have as a council and that we really care about, whether it's Meals on Wheels or a million other things. So I think it's just really, really exciting. And more importantly than any credit by any means is the impact that that money is going to have on our community is going to be remarkable. So that's fantastic news. I wanted to also ask you, Jonathan, if you could give a little update also to Rose's question, just about how our ongoing relationship, though it's a Band-Aid, with the animal shelter at Bloomfield is going.
yeah, so my understanding is going pretty well. Another hiring decision that we made, I believe in the last 2 weeks, is we hired Eric Petlick as our ACO. As you remember, we honored Eric for his retirement ceremony about 2 or 3 months ago as a regular police officer, and we've rehired him on the force as the ACO. The facility there obviously is, it's far away, but it's really nice. I mean, I haven't been personally, but the pictures I've seen and the reports I'm hearing, it's a really like high quality facility. And also the chief has been able, I think with Lauren's assistance, been able to arrange for some sort of a temporary basis, some coordination with the Berlin Animal Shelter when it's like end of Friday at the end of a shift. Using the Berlin shelter as kind of just a temporary way station for the animals before they can be transported to Bloomfield. But to the larger point, and I think to Rosa's point, we don't want to be driving whatever that is, 20 miles for dogs. And moreover, we don't want our residents to be driving 20 miles to pick up their lost dogs. We're open to ideas. I mean, I think we're eager to see the future of the Connecticut Canine facility after it sells, whether there might be an opportunity to re-partner with the new owner. But we're locked in with at least with Bloomfield for a year. So that will expire, I think, March 31st, I want to say, of next year. So we have, we're 9 more months or something.
Yeah, well, I'm glad it's going well.
Yeah.
I think that's great news. Just one final note I want to make is I've noticed that Parks and Rec has been so out in the community with social media and doing a lot of really awesome work. They've always had a reputation for that, but it's just seemed like there's been all this new energy. And I know that a lot of that, I'm sure, has to do with our great superintendent.
Yeah, with Scott, and also give credit where it's due that we have 2 new great rec supervisors, Lizzie and Stephanie. And so I think they're full of energy too.
I just want to
So,
applaud
yeah.
them. I think it's been fantastic. And it looks like the community is really excited.
Sure. Thank you, Counselor. All right, we move on to item 13, council liaison reports. You've already used up your, Counselor Tedina.
Yeah, a few things going on. The library committee, alongside with the Friends of the Library, recently had their staff appreciation dinner. So shout out to TJ's. They went to TJ's. They had a great time. It sounds like they had a really successful 5K run a few weeks ago, and now they're gearing up to replace the front door on the old library building right now. Thank you to the town who's helping them with the cost of replacing that door, which is in the tune of about $30,000, which is pretty crazy in my opinion, but it's an old door. So there's a lot of stuff that they need to do. As you mentioned, the senior center got a lot of money to help them with the meals, which is fun, but they also, the high school track team also went to the senior center and helped them build some raised flower beds in the back. It looks awesome. I encourage everyone to visit the senior center and take a look. I'm excited for them to be able to grow a whole bunch of more stuff now. I guess they got it done in like 2 or 3 hours, which is crazy because it would have took me like a couple of weekends to do what they did. So, so shout out to the track team there. And then, Newington Goes Country is happening soon. Food Truck Friday. I will be there Thursday as well. I will be serving alcohol. So if you want to hang out, I'll be at the coolest place you can go there.
But not drinking.
Well, no, not drinking. Maybe when I'm done. And yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Jacob?
Yeah, the Permanent Municipal Building Committee met regarding the Chapman Street firehouse, and they got the report from TLB Architecture. And basically the findings, which was kind of surprising, is that it's a structurally sound building. But every element needs work. There's a lot of broken bricks, moisture in the masonry, some regrading, complete roof replacement, windows, whatever. But given the fact that there seems to be a consensus that the building will be used for some type of storage capacity versus trying to convert it into an office building or meeting space or whatever, the restoration that has to be done, there'll be less coding requirements than if it were going to be used for, actual, meeting rooms and offices, whatever. So the feeling is that the outside envelope and the exterior work can be done 100% before we actually determine, what's going to be stored there or what our Hoods department and whatever, but at least there's good progress and good news on the fact that it's in structurally okay shape. The outer envelope can be done within what, estimated budget guidelines. And they're also very cognizant of the fact that it is part of the Newington Junction Historical District. So they're gonna, as much as possible, try to maintain its current look. So it will not look out of place in that district.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Floyd.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't recap any further, but thank you, Councilor Draco, for your recap of the Permanent Municipal Building Commission meeting, and I'm glad that that continues to function in a productive direction after being dormant for so long. Also mention, I mentioned earlier about the radio tower site selection team, and certainly that's moving in a productive direction as well. I want to mention also the Economic Development Commission meeting, which they'll be meeting shortly, but one of the things that they'll be considering is how to use the remainder of funds that they still have in their account before the end of the fiscal year to support some kind of short-term economic development goals, whether it's, I think there's some consideration about plantings to improve kind of the streetscape, or there's some interest in like a signage, small scale signage, like a community bulletin board kind of thing. So some really cool ideas. And I'm just always really glad that the EDC continues to be doing some really out of the box thinking about things. I also want to mention that myself and Councilor Tiniakos and Councilor Gonzalez and Councilor Nieves, I think I have everyone, but we attended the check presentation from our delegation for about $150,000 that they secured for our school-based health center.
More state money.
More state money, which was that school-based health center was at risk of closing because not of anything that happened at council or even with the state, but just a lapse in that particular grant. It was a one-time, one-year grant. So thankfully that service is going to be able to continue, and we were really glad to celebrate that. I know myself and some other counselors as well also attended the adult ed graduation, our favorite event of
That
the
is my
year.
favorite event of
And
the
that
year.
was fantastic to celebrate. I think those 7 graduates altogether.
It was 8.
8 graduates altogether. American 250 committee also met, which I serve on with Councilor Draco, and some exciting events coming up. So folks should look out onto the town website for updates on those events. And then lastly, I just want to thank Councilor Gonzalez, who together with Chief Perry and other folks helped get this really important presentation to our community last night, which was a presentation on hate crime statutes throughout the state of Connecticut since the state of Connecticut updated some of those statutes. And it provided, me and I know a lot of other members of the community with a lot of helpful information about how to identify hate crimes or biased incidents or other things that might fall under different standards and how to respond to them. And as we've talked about already tonight and other folks have shared in the past, that these things are still very actively happening in our community. And it's a tragic thing and something that we all really are committed to combating. And so as many tools as we can have at our disposal, the better. So thank you, Councilor Gonzalez, for doing that. That's it.
Thank you, Counselor. All right, we're gonna move on to public participation. If you'd like to speak in public participation, please step at the microphone and state your name and address for the record. If you're on Zoom, use the raise hand function. We'll alternate between in the room and over Zoom.
Andre Andreas, 76 Vincent Drive. So speaking of Vincent Drive, I overheard that there's an incentive or federal funding for public sidewalk to connect Maple to Cedar Street. And I think that's a great idea, just because I am an advocate for public safety. And if you've ever tried to walk on Cedar Street, it's very dangerous, and people have a tendency to fly down the Cedar Street like they're in the Indianapolis 500. And I think that's a great idea. But I also heard a little bit tonight about people talking about bullying and based off of their identity, but it's bullying. Anyone can be susceptible to bullying. And why should someone who identifies a certain way get a special treatment when I think everyone's safety is a priority? And I also heard something tonight about, building and the apartments. So back in November of 2025, I asked this council to speak out against HB 8002, which is the disastrous housing bill coming out of the state of Connecticut. I asked for you folks to reach out to Gary Turco and Matt Lester, who are state rep and senator, who both voted in favor of this disastrous housing bill. And now tonight, I hear how you guys are some of you live close to these apartment complexes and you're worried and there's traffic and there's congestion. I also heard tonight that we need a new fire truck, which is valued at roughly $2.6 million. And at that time, back in November, I did warn this council that all these new incoming housing complexes are going to put an increased need on our town services, and we're already seeing that tonight. And I had mentioned, I had overheard earlier that you wanted to talk, Matt, that you wanted to talk about my public participation comments, and that you mentioned you wanted to wait to the end. And I just think that's a little evasive and that you're deflecting to avoid further discussion or criticism because you're going to wait to the end.
Thank you, Andre.
You're welcome.
We do have a few on Zoom, so if you want to come up, Jacob, we're going to go to one on Zoom and then we'll go to you. Go right ahead, Ms. Lyons.
Hi, Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. I've been writing notes down in a steno pad like Mr. McCarthy, and I'm trying to get my thoughts together here. But first of all, I'd like to address the fire department's request for a new fire truck. And you all seem to be discussing how it was never gone to referendum before. I personally don't think it should go to referendum. That being said, back in 2019 or 2020, when Keith Chapman was the town manager and the last truck was ordered, because it takes so long to get these trucks, somehow he worked it so half of the truck was paid for in one fiscal year, 1 month, like in June, I think, and then the other half in July. So if you go back and see what Mr. Chapman based his payment for this truck on in the past, maybe you can do it again. I don't know if it was a special appropriation to bring up a sore subject like OFI or if it was a lease purchase. But in any case, if we take a chance in going to referendum, the way things go in this town, we may never have another new fire truck. And I think it's important that we make sure that our fire department and our police department are properly staffed and equipped. The next thing I was wondering about is the steering committee for how this money is going to be spent for the money that we received in for the town center. Am I understanding correctly that they're only going to come up with recommendations and it's going to come before the council and you will make the final decision? I know that you don't give answers at this particular time, so I'm not just throwing it out there as something that I am concerned about. And the pool subject. I am all too familiar with the history of the past 3 pool committees, and I can understand Dana Haven's concerns about it coming to a dead halt. I'm not saying that you have to come up with a big plan. You have to come up with something, because the first committee took 3 years and nothing got resolved as far as the questions that the town council had. The second committee came in and just picked up the old plan and went to referendum for it because there was a promise made during the campaign for town council that you would bring it to referendum. It went, it didn't fly. So I think something has to be in place should at some time perhaps the state come up with another $5 million like we could have had if we had a shovel-ready project at the time. I'm just concerned that, again, the can is being kicked down the road. I'm not saying you have to appropriate any money, but come up with some sort of direction that you'd like to go in. I gave up listening to this present pool committee because it was just like I was going around in a gerbil cage discussing the same things that I've listened to for the last 10 years. I want to thank the town manager and Councilor Plord for answering some of my questions. I'm just a little concerned about the answer for the Stoddard Avenue target date. I thought last October 28th when I was at a meeting that it was going to be something that was going to be in the works this year. This project's been around for so long. I feel bad for the people over in that area that they're just being strung along. I was at a meeting when our charter revision was being discussed and nothing still is being done. I will end with, as far as things that need to be changed with the charter, I so hope that the previous town managers and this town manager are keeping a list, because I know that the town council has to review it at some point in time. And I don't want to, I probably won't be around, but I don't want to be sitting here, if the good Lord leaves me here that long, to listen to what is it that we wanted to do and nobody having a clue, because all new people are at the table. So if somebody can be keeping a list of what needs to be changed, that would be appreciated. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jacob Knowlton, 10 Hillside Street. I'll quickly respond and then I want to get to other things because I prefer infrastructure. Thank you very much. But it's not just bullying. I'm lucky enough, I got enough meat on me where like when I got spat on in the center of town in the parking lot, just trying to get drinks with my mom, I can go boo, and people will be a little bit more nervous than someone who doesn't have that privilege. Speaking of someone who's smaller than me, so I want to keep that in mind. I've had friends attacked. I've had a friend attacked at CCSU. I continue to have people chased, both here and the other half of my life in the city. So it's not that simple that it's just bullying. And also, again, wrap the ankle when the ankle's needed wrapping. You know, you don't just say, I'm not going to do nothing. Doing nothing's poor policy. So applying care when it's necessary, that's better policy. All right, housing. Getting to the center of town, I just want to voice my excitement for the Keeney property. I don't want y'all to think that everyone's a no-no or poo-poo in that. I think it's fantastic. I want to pay attention to what we have and what we don't have. And I hear a lot of, we don't need any more apartments. But what kind of apartments do we got? It's a lot of apartments that are inside parking lots. That's kind of a crap way to live in. No shade to anyone there, but that's not attractive to me. And honestly, those types of developments are popped up from reactionary development. This is very different. This is with planning involved. That's the type of housing that I think we need and that is important. We're in this housing crisis because we stopped building after the 80s, obviously exacerbated by the 2008 housing recession. But if we just say no more housing, we're going to be right back where we started. And that's not good policy either. You need a good, healthy cycle of development, demolition, and remodeling. Just wanted to get to the point of this misinformation that's being spread that apartments bring in school children. We had one town that we studied that was the exception, and that's that curve is evening out now, and that was South Windsor. Newington was not one of those. There are two factors that come into play when you're bringing in school children. That's the size of the unit, so single family homes for the most part, and ownership. If you have condos, it's more likely you're going to have kids in those units. And this other notion that renters don't pay taxes, I find funny. So when we're talking about the added infrastructure costs and all that, these buildings and these developments are paying their fair share in taxes. That's going to go to this. If anything, it's diversifying your tax base so that your income is healthier. And you're not just sitting on vacant properties like in the center of town. We know vacancies and turnovers are an issue in the center of town, so we want to correct that. But businesses aren't going to come if they don't have the return on investment being seen. That return on investment is housing. Housing is where jobs go at night. So when developers or business owners see housing going in, they know that they can have consistent and reliable employment, and they also know that they can have consistent and reliable foot traffic. Right now, we do not have the density in the center of town to represent that, and I feel like I can put in a quick amount of research and find that that's the case of why we're having those kind of vacancy and turnover rates. And the other thing too is speaking about what type of developments we're talking about traffic. I'm all for planning for mitigating traffic. I'll be here right when we're doing that during the public hearings and all that. But we have to pay attention to what housing causes traffic. When you put something up like on Cedar Street, that's a big parking lot, all those trips, they're going to need those trips in order to get anywhere, to the restaurants, to the jobs. When you have a building in the center of town, those folks aren't going to have the consistent rate of trips in their cars because they can walk to their work. They can walk to their restaurant. Yeah, you'll still have trips if they work in Hartford, but it's not going to be at the same rate. So you want to make sure that you're planning. If you have to do housing, because that's good policy, you want to make sure that you're doing it in the right place. That's going to mitigate traffic and doing it well. So I look forward to the public participation when it comes to that Keeney property, and I'm excited for that development when it comes around. Thank you.
Thank you
so much, Jake.
We'll go to one on Zoom. Go right ahead, Ms. Havens.
Hi, Dana Havens, 113 Stoddard Avenue. I just wanted to make some points of clarification. Somebody wondered why people were talking about the pools all of a sudden all over again. Well, it's summer and the pools are getting filled, so it is topic of conversation. And when people were complaining about the last committee rushing, it wasn't because you went so fast. It was because we all expected you to go in and view other options, but instead you just rushed to, here's our previous plan and we're going with it. So that was the complaint surrounding rushing. And then when AJ asked town manager to explain associated costs with going to RFP, I noticed that he was speaking in the past tense, and the cost associated is what cost us for the study. And there was nothing about insinuating that continuing these meetings would cost us anything. And I can't imagine that it would. So again, I please beg you to instruct the town pools committee to continue meeting and developing plans. They have all the information they need from that study to move forward quite significantly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Anybody in the room that would like to speak? If not, we got one more on Zoom. All right. We go to Lewis. Go right ahead.
Hello, I'm Lewis from I'm Lewis, 482 Churchill Drive. I just wanted to basically reiterate about the housing stuff that's been going on and been talking about. I see it firsthand a lot of times. I'm out there in the field. I see all the stuff on the news about people from New York coming to Connecticut, and they're not staying. They're coming to Connecticut and buying up houses and renting them out to people. So there's plenty of stuff that we have to rent. We're not building a housing that people actually need, which is usually housing underneath like 2,500 square feet or below. And I've talked to some builders about why they're not building it either, and it's just too much money to build those types of houses, especially with the current building codes and energy things that they're putting in for the state. So these large apartment complexes and building complexes, as you can see, it is a tax on the municipalities. We need fire trucks. We need those buildings have to be inspected by fire marshals every single year, where if you have a single family property, they don't need to be. So it's definitely a tax on our municipalities between our police and the fire department. I wanted to also talk about with these camera systems on the bus systems. It is just a gateway for them, the police departments, to start to use these things. And the number one, actually, a lot of times I see who's breaking the law is the police departments. I was out for a walk one day. I hear a car running and revving up its engine. I looked over and it was one of our own police officers going probably double the speed limit in an area without lights or sirens on. So I think these things should be monitored without a police officer on duty, because they're just going to take the license plates numbers and just exclude them. And I think they should not be excluded. And I think they should actually be enforced that if they're not on a call and the police departments are just doing a regular patrol and they're speeding, that they should be actually written up for it. I think the police department should actually set the example. If it's such a detriment to be speeding in our town, they should be the ones setting the example. And we don't want our officers to be in danger. We want them to be safe, so they should actually be following the speed limits too. And I've seen a lot on the state highways where state troopers going. They're the ones going 100 miles an hour, and they're the ones going through a work zone at 100 miles an hour, and we're not doing anything to prevent that. It's just washed underneath the table. And it also kind of concerns me with a lot of the stuff that we're hearing about with pensions and stuff. I'm a small business owner, and I'll tell you right now, pensions are hard to fund. Everything has gone to 203, I'm at 401ks and everything like that. And even as business owners, we have more than 4 employees. We have to do a retirement plan. The towns might have to start looking at maybe doing something like that. And even for the state might have to start doing something where new hires don't get onto a pension plan and start to find their own retirement plans. Well, I know we just did a whole bunch of stuff for health insurance for these teachers' aides that we were talking about. And the state has also denied us as forming a group to do our own policies to get health insurance. So the state is putting us down, but then when we're talking about how to hire people and how to do stuff and they can't get insurance, as a business owner, insurance is my number one cost. It is the killer of me. So we got to find ways to help out our actually small businesses with health insurance too. So just as much as teachers.
Thank you so much, Louis.
Thanks, Louis. Anybody else in the room or over Zoom that would like to speak in public participation? Going twice, sold. All right, we're gonna move right along. Moving on to remarks by counselors. Any comments from council? Counselor Finiakis.
Yeah, just to address Ms. Havens. It's my belief that, you know, the committee is at a point where we've gotten the core decisions made, and now we need to go to RFP to get like the conceptual designs done and all that stuff. We could meet in theory and hypothetically talk about all of these plans that we want to do, but without having guidance from professionals in that area, like all those plans could be for naught, right? We could think of something super grandiose or something very tiny, but I personally think that it wouldn't do the town any good to do that. So I think the best thing that we could do right now is to work with our town to try to find the funds so that we can get those RFPs out, and then we can move the process forward. And then Mr. Andres, since you emailed us, rather than just responding to your email, just responded to here. I think you coming here and making a formal request and having a flag is probably the most instructive thing that you could have done in relation to this topic. That's like what everyone else who has had a flag flown in this town has done. So appreciate you going through those steps and doing that. I'm sure our party chairs will get together, that you guys can talk about it, whether you think it's something that we want to act on and it can relate to the rest of to our caucuses there. Personally, I think that you know, I looked it up during the meeting. Straight Month is not like a nationally accredited or recognized thing. And I wouldn't supersede an already flying flag to replace it with another one, regardless of who it might be, right? I just think that would be inappropriate in that sense. But again, thank you for taking a constructive step.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Floyd.
Thank you, Mayor. I know it's late and I think Counselor Petracco's right. I probably am the talker of the
Yeah,
group
look at I win.
at 10 o'clock.
We
And
all
It's because I care.
Told you, don't make predictions.
But I feel a responsibility to say something about what happened at the last meeting. The only meeting I've missed in 3 years because I was with my loved ones. I'm not usually the one to be a pundit, and I'm going to say I wrote something down so I don't stray too far. Councilor Draco, you'll appreciate that. I won't go on too long, but you know, I don't make an effort to lean into disagreement very often because I think, frankly, the world has got more than enough rage and division to tide it over without me contributing to it. And if anything, I think it's my job and all of our jobs here to do what we can to repair some of those fractured bonds. But I do feel a responsibility to say a few words about what was said in this room 2 weeks ago, ranging from everything from some truly amazing assertions about biological science to just frankly, plainly cynical, very political points that we frankly just don't usually spend time engaging with in a serious place like this when we're tasked with doing serious work. It's certainly not in the time that I've been on this council. When I wrote that resolution that was passed 2 weeks ago, 3 years ago, recognizing Pride Month and raising a flag over town hall, we received bipartisan, unanimous support. And we moved for that resolution. We discussed it very briefly, probably for no longer than 10 minutes. And we passed it and moved on. And that discussion that was involved was still important. I remember really appreciating at the time, though folks were on the other side of the aisle, that Councilor Mankey, Tim Mankey, serving on the council at the time, took great pains to focus on one particular line in that resolution. He pulled out that this is about building a culture of inclusiveness and acceptance this month and every month. Councilor Dave Nagel at the time said that he supported this proclamation and all that it stands for, that there is indeed a need that we support it in a non-political way And that this is something that is sorely needed and recognized, and that indeed fear of any kind by anybody in our society here in Newington should not and cannot be tolerated. So I celebrate this, end quote. And of course, my friend Counselor Draco said at the time that no one in the community should have to tolerate any kind of discrimination or hate. Quote, I'm glad that this brought about discussions and more openness as a result of this proclamation from the preceding year. We've all got to be better at accepting things we might not agree with or believe in, whether it be politics or religion. And there's a lot more hate out there than there should be. So I celebrate this and celebrate the people who are going to be celebrating this month. Quote. Some raised 2 weeks ago that this flag prompts uncomfortable, non-age appropriate conversations for their children. And surely a piece of rainbow fabric is itself on its own fairly nebulous, particularly for a child. So for the adult with a real concern about this, I reflect and have reflected for 2 weeks with real curiosity that if the flag is too uncomfortable, then what does seeing your neighbors who happen to be of the same sex walking their children to the bus stop together prompt? What does seeing a member of our community who just happens to be trans sitting at a local restaurant prompt? And if we saw each other outside of this setting and your child was with you and I was with my partner, how would you have me introduce the person that I love? I may be young, but I was not born yesterday. And I know what you're saying when you say that it is inappropriate for a child. We know that some flag is not where the line is. I want to be clear, it's okay to be curious, to have questions, or to even be confused. I mean, that's just life and that's human, deeply human. We don't know about things until we know about them. If living our lives with the most basic freedoms brings you discomfort, then I really encourage you earnestly, with all the compassion that I can muster, to be curious and to do some earnest reflection on what it means to live in a free society like ours with liberty and justice for all. The only reason that this conversation continues to come up is because some, far from being curious, far from trying to get to know the stranger, continue to drag some people's identities into political debate. No one is asking for that. We just want to live our lives in peace, just like you do. So I look forward to next year's flag raising, and to put a finer point, I pray for the day when we no longer have the need for a flag raising. And that's all I have to say on that. Councilor Nahas.
So my objection, because a lot of what you were just saying is referring to me. And I'm happy to have any conversation with you outside of this table as well, because you and I have had several respectful conversations over the past several months, and I'm happy to continue the dialogue with you. My objections is not rooted in politics. It truly is rooted in the sense of parents and families who have a different stance and may not subscribe to the agenda as it has morphed into what it is today. You are correct. A piece of rainbow fabric does not necessarily prompt a conversation. What people have applied to that symbol at this point is very different than I think where it started. And that's my opinion. You can disagree with me and we can continue this dialogue about that after the fact, but I can also treat people with respect. I can raise my children to treat people with respect, regardless of whether or not they understand something or we are ready to have a conversation about something. Being a respectful human being is the way I like to treat people, the way I expect to be treated in return, in the way that I teach any child in my presence to treat other people. So it's not political. It's not coming from a place of disrespect for anybody. If somebody felt that way, I'm happy to have a conversation. So that's not the intent, is not to show disrespect. I just don't feel as though it is always necessary to do that, and that what it has morphed into and the symbolism that it has morphed into has changed over the years. And I just it does make me uncomfortable and it does prompt uncomfortable conversations that I'm not necessarily prepared to have with a young child. But I'm happy to continue that conversation, Matt, because maybe there is something that I'm not, maybe there's an angle I'm not looking at that you can bring me to light on.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other comments from council? All right, seeing none, move on to informational items. I actually got one, it's America 250 this year. Also, America is actually hosting the FIFA World Cup, which starts this Thursday. United States is playing Friday. Everybody watch America, support your country. That's all I got on that. Other than that, I would entertain a motion to, Councilor Gonzalez, sorry.
No, that's okay. I just had some information of going on in town. June 21st is Pride in the Park. And it is from 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We had a great turnout last year. And I hope to see everybody there again. And thank the community and the businesses and all the individuals that have reached out with raffle prizes. We have a great selection. So hope to see everyone
I
there.
heard the mayor's gonna be in a dunk.
I heard the mayor will be in the dunk tank as well.
So if you guys don't
Pass
wanna,
it up.
you just wanna get the mayor wet.
Gail's gonna be.
$3 a ball. All right, with that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, motion by Council Floyd, second by Council Gonzalez. Any discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor?
Bye.
Any opposed or abstain? All right, motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned 10:20 PM. Great meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.